Chapter 1243. Zhao Qianhe appears on the way back. The flying vessel was in somewhat of a sorry state. Everyone was either standing or sitting, staring off into the distance. Others wore gloomy expressions and said nothing. It had been half an hour since they'd left Barren Sand City, but they hadn't said a single word. "It's all my fault, it's all my fault." Shuemo sat in a corner of the flying boat, muttering to herself as if she'd lost her soul. The others wanted to comfort her, but they didn't know what to say. In the end, they could only let her mutter to herself. Yi Zichen had brought up the rear, Chen Guangfa had sacrificed himself, and Murong Shui and the others had been trapped in the beast tide. The way Shuemo saw it, it was all because of her. She was like a star of calamity. No matter who came into contact with her, bad luck would come knocking on their door. She clenched her transmission slip tightly. What chilled her heart was that even now, she still hadn't received any news from the Academy or her family. The flying vessel sped away from Barren Sand City. As far as the eye could see, the outside world was no longer a withered yellow and deathly aura. Instead, they could faintly make out some green. At the same time, as they left Barren Sand City, Shuemo's transmission device flashed wildly. "There's news." Shuemo clutched the slip and arched her brows. The others hurried over, and Jiang Yong shouted, "Hurry up and send someone to Barren Sand City to save Brother Yi. He might still be alive." His words seemed to ignite Shuemo's hope. She nodded, then scanned the slip with her divine sense. These words seemed to ignite Shuemo's hope. She nodded, then sent her divine sense into the jade slip. She saw that it was filled with a dense array of information. His words seemed to ignite Shuemo's hope. She nodded, then sent her divine sense into the slip. She saw a dense array of messages. "That mission isn't something you can handle. Stop throwing a tantrum and come back. First, Miss Shui, please don't be so stubborn, all right?" All the messages on it were sent to her by the Academy. After that, there were also quite a few messages sent to her from her family. "You went to Barren Sand City? Stop messing around. Hurry up and get out of Barren Sand City. Do you want to die?" The situation in Barren Sand City isn't simple. It's not something a kid's society like yours can handle. When she saw the message, Shuemo froze, then her eyes filled with bitterness. The news had only just arrived, so it was obvious that Barren Sand City had blocked all communication with the outside world. From the very beginning, the Academy and the family had asked them to give up on the mission. What was laughable was that they actually thought that just because they didn't receive any message, it meant that they could investigate everything. Why didn't we receive the news until now? Shuemo clenched her fists, her eyes filled with self-blame. She should have sensed it a long time ago. Among these students, her status was rather special. If she sent a message to the Academy, it was impossible for them not to reply. Damn it! When they saw Shuemo's expression, the onlookers furrowed their brows. Murong Shui asked, "What's wrong? What did the Academy say?" "From the very beginning, the Academy told us to give up on the bounty mission. It's just that someone in the vicinity of Barren Sand City has blocked all communication with the outside world. That's why we didn't receive any orders to retreat." Before he could finish speaking, Murong Shui and the others' transmission slips began to glow. Grasping the jade slip tightly, Xiao Chen probed it with his spiritual sense. Although the contents of the message were not exactly the same, there was no difference. "That's not important right now. What's important is that you sent the Academy a message. Have they received it yet?" asked Jiang Yong, his expression dark. "I think so." Shuemo's reply wasn't very confident. She was practically immersed in her own little world. When he heard her dispirited reply, Jiang Yong wanted to curse. Just as he was about to use his transmission slip to send a message, the space around them suddenly distorted. As the space distorted, the ship's trajectory changed. Jiang Yong's nerves were taut as he tried his best to control the ship's trajectory. The onlookers looked around nervously. Soon after, they saw two figures flying through the air in front of them. Director Zhao, Dean Qiu. When the two of them appeared, they nodded at each other, then flew towards the ship. When they landed, Xuemo confirmed who they were. She wiped away her tears and ran over to them. Big Sister Qianhe. The person Xuemo called Big Sister Qianhe was none other than Zhao Qianhe, who'd helped Yi Zichen at the foot of the Divine Mountains. The other person who'd arrived with her was an old man. He was Skyspan Academy's dean, Qiuanhui. "What's wrong, Mo? Your dad frantically sent me over. He said you were in danger." Zhao Qianhe hugged Xuemo and gently patted her on the head. "Don't be afraid. Big Sister Qianhe is here. No one can harm you now." Dean. The others bowed to the old man. Murong Shui and Jiang Yong greeted Zhao Qianhe. Steward Zhao. The Murong and Jiang family's friends are here too. Zhao Qianhe nodded and smiled, then glanced at them. "You're all injured. What exactly happened?" "Steward Zhao, it's like this," explained the old man. "Xuemo and the others accepted a bounty mission from Barren Sands City. If I'm not mistaken, it should be Qiuanhui." Zhao Qianhe's expression instantly darkened. "You actually sent them on a mission from Barren Sands City? It's not the dean's fault. We insisted on going," Xuemo said, sobbing. "Big Sister Qianhe, hurry and go to Barren Sands City and save my friend. He stayed behind to save us. There's a subterranean beast king there." "A subterranean beast king?" Zhao Qianhe's expression grew solemn. Then she nodded and smiled. "All right, I'll go help you save your friend right now. You two can follow Qiuanhui back to the academy." "No, I'm going with you," Xuemo sobbed and shook her head. "Don't cause trouble," Zhao Qianhe frowned. Xuemo continued to shake her head. Seeing her like this, Zhao Qianhe couldn't help but scold her. "You're really carved from the same mold as your mother, stubborn and obstinate. If you want to go with me, then go ahead. Qiuanhui, stay here and protect them. I'll follow behind. Also, you rashly sent them on a mission in Barren Sands City and put them in danger. I'll settle this with you once we get back." "All right." Qiuanhui smiled bitterly and nodded. There was nothing else he could say. All he could do was bear it silently. Fortunately, Xuemo was fine. If she'd died outside Barren Sands City, the situation would have been far worse. Murong Shui and Jiang Yong too. He couldn't afford to offend any one of them. Chapter 1244. The wolf is here. Zhao Qianhe's eyes flashed with sharp light. She took a step forward and disappeared through the spatial distortion. The other students on the flying vessel looked at Qiuanhui. When he saw their gazes, he sighed helplessly, waved his hand and gathered them all up. Then, he took the vessel and disappeared behind Zhao Qianhe. Boom! Intense shockwaves stirred up a sandstorm, and Yi Zichen slammed into a sand dune 100 meters away. Every bone in his body was shattered. Not bad at all. The subterranean beast king's enormous body gave it explosive strength. Given Yi Zichen's strength as an Earth Supreme, it was already a miracle that he'd survived a single blow. Their huge bodies would also cause their movements to slow down. It had been a long time since he'd received a blow, but that was the first time he'd received one. Of course, it had almost cost him his life. "Bro, I'm afraid we're both going to die here." Yi Zichen held a ring in his hand. This was the only thing Chen Guangfa had left behind. Even though this was a desert, the subterranean Beast King's stomp had destroyed everything he'd left behind. It was also difficult to summon Yao from the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. During this time, Yi Zichen had summoned them to fight the subterranean beast. Practically all of the Yao above the 6th stage had been gravely injured and had to recuperate inside. It felt like he'd really gone too far. As expected, this subterranean beast king isn't something a nobody like me can face. Why did I get so hot-headed and decide to play the hero? Yi Zichen laughed self-deprecatingly, then looked behind the subterranean beast king and shouted, I'm here, save me." His shout made the subterranean beast turn around. Yi Zichen took advantage of this moment to dig madly into the sand. What? Of course he was going to hide. He couldn't move his legs, so there was no way he could run. All he could do now was hide. Behind him was a barren wasteland. There was no sign of anyone. The subterranean beast king realized it had been tricked. A terrifying light flashed through its bewitching purple eyes. You dare to play with this king? Hee. Yi Zichen smiled. Ai, your majesty, how could I dare to mess with you? I was just joking with you. Why don't you take me in as your little brother? I haven't lived long enough. Hand over the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, and I can spare your life. All right, I'll give it to you. Yi Zichen endured the pain and nodded. Then, joy flashed across his eyes once again. I'm here. Dean, hurry up and save me. The subterranean beast hesitated for a moment, but it still looked behind it. Yi Zichen took advantage of this to dig madly into the sand. Before long, however, he felt a towering rage behind him. Brat, you're courting death. After being tricked twice by Yi Zichen, the Beast King felt like its intelligence had been insulted. Your Majesty, please don't be angry. I'll give you the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. Please spare my life, pleaded Yi Zichen. No need. Even if you die, the Yao Ceiling Pagoda will still be mine. The subterranean beast snorted and walked forward. At that moment, Yi Zichen's eyes lit up. This gaze was a ray of hope. You still want to lie to this king? The subterranean beast snorted inwardly. As expected, before long, Yi Zichen raised his hands and shouted, I'm here. Kid, using the same trick 3 times, do you think this king is an idiot? There really is someone this time. If you don't believe me, look behind you. There really is someone. Believe me. Yi Zichen's gaze was sincere, but the subterranean beast no longer believed him. Being fooled twice was already the limit of what he could endure. If he was fooled a 3rd time, did they really think he was an idiot? The subterranean beast ignored everything else and walked towards Yi Zichen. At that moment, a gust of wind slammed into the back of his head and slammed him into the sand. Yi Zichen sighed helplessly. I told you there was someone, but you didn't believe me. Great, now you've been beaten. After suffering this blow, the subterranean beast king was furious. A mournful howl rose up from the desert, so loud that Yi Zichen's eardrums hurt. However, the tiny ant-like Zhao Qianhe standing in front of him had a look of disdain in her eyes. Little worm, how dare you act fiercely in front of me? Kneel. Thud. Even at Yi Zichen's cultivation, he couldn't see what Zhao Qianhe had done, but the subterranean beast king knelt to the ground. You're a ruler. By now, the subterranean beast was truly afraid. Zhao Qianhe glanced at him coolly. Since you know, then kneel obediently. Otherwise, you know what will happen to you. With that, Zhao Qianhe walked up to Yi Zichen. It's you greedy brat. When she saw that it was Yi Zichen, she arched her brows. Senior, you really are a goddess. You've saved me from danger time and time again. Once I get back, I'll definitely erect a memorial tablet for you. I'll burn incense and chant sutras for you every day. I'll bless you with a flood of good fortune. There's no need to play games with me. I've long since passed the age of listening to such things. Zhao Qianhe glanced at Yi Zichen, then noticed the ring he clenched tightly. As expected, she'd thought he'd improve a little, but it seemed he still couldn't change his greedy nature. Given his current state, staying behind to buy time for Shui Mo and the others to escape might seem heroic, but he'd almost lost his life in the process. He was greedy and didn't know when to back down. She knew she couldn't read people incorrectly. Ever since their first meeting at the foot of the Divine Mountains, she'd seen through Yi Zichen's character. Brat, you're trying to get close to the Sea of Innocence, aren't you? Zhao Qianhe's gaze darkened. Senior, what are you talking about? Yi Zichen was dumbfounded. No need to pretend. But let me warn you, if you have any bad intentions, you'd best give up as soon as possible. My temper isn't particularly good. So long as you reveal even the slightest hint of a fox's tail, your little life won't be yours anymore. Do you understand? She gently tapped Yi Zichen on the chest. Zhao Qianhe sensed that Shui Mo and the others had arrived, so she dropped the subject. Remember, don't reveal your fox's tail. She narrowed her eyes and walked away. Qiu and Hui led Shui Mo and the others over. Practically the first thing they saw was Yi Zichen. When they saw his wretched state, Murong Shui and the other girls burst into tears. Even Jiang Yong, Li Hu, and the others couldn't help but gasp. Brother Yi, I, Jiang Yong, owe you 2 lives. Jiang Yong cupped his fists. What do you mean you owe me? We're brothers, right? Chapter 1245. I'll take you to Emperor Hades' secondary palace. The barren sand city incident had come to an end, and the appearance of a subterranean beast king was a clear indication that Yi Zichen and the others could no longer continue the mission. Furthermore, they'd lost far too much for the sake of this mission. Chen Guangfa's death left Shui Mo devastated, just like anti-upheaval had all those years ago. She grew more and more depressed by the day, and no longer cared for anti-upheaval's affairs. Yi Zichen's injuries meant that he couldn't interfere either. Li Hu and Luozi took care of everything. In the blink of an eye, 2 months passed. Knock, knock, knock. Someone knocked on Yi Zichen's door. After half a month of meditation and the precious pills Shui Mo had given him, Yi Zichen's injuries had healed at an astonishing rate. Although his meridians hadn't fully healed, he could now take care of his basic needs. Let's go take a look. 2 attendants stood in Yi Zichen's room. They weren't Yao from the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, but rather people Shui Mo had hired to take care of his daily needs. The attendants nodded and opened the door. Shui Mo walked in. How's your recovery? Won't it affect your happiness for the rest of your life? Shui Mo took the initiative to joke with Yi Zichen. It seemed that the past 2 months had helped her forget some of her guilt towards Chen Guangfa. Or perhaps it was more accurate to say that she hadn't forgotten. Rather, she remembered it even more deeply and buried it deep in her heart. This was a good start. No matter what, she was the backbone of anti-upheaval. If she fell, it wouldn't be a good thing for either the society or herself. I'm as lively as a dragon and lively as a tiger. I should be able to maintain my happiness for the rest of my life. The incident in Barren Sands City had deepened their friendship. They no longer held any prejudices against each other. All they had left was a friendship of life and death. That's good. Shui Mo nodded in relief, then tossed a ring to Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen looked at her in confusion, then heard her speak. 10,000-year black jade? Didn't you always want it? Didn't the bounty mission get cancelled? Where did you get it? Yi Zichen asked as he held the ring. Yes, but the conclusion we came to is very helpful to Barren Sands City. Furthermore, that subterranean beast king was captured alive, and I heard that we managed to get a lot of useful information out of it. One of the most important pieces of information is that the Yao are indeed working with the demons. Barren Sands City gave me the reward for the mission, so I brought you the 10,000-year black jade. Yi Zichen wasn't too surprised. He'd known all this from the start. Thanks. He raised the ring and smiled at her. He really did need the 10,000-year black jade urgently, so he didn't refuse. Instead, he sent his divine sense into the ring. Yi Zichen immediately opened his eyes wide when he saw the number inside. This is too much. Wow, do you think I'm a nouveau riche? I definitely can't afford so many 10,000-year-old black jade. It's free. I'm giving it to you for free, said Shui Mo. Are all the people with the surname Mo so generous? Her familiar tone reminded Yi Zichen of Zhou Mo. Back in the lower realms, Zhou Mo had said the same thing to him. What do you mean? Shui Mo didn't understand. Nothing. Yi Zichen pursed his lips into a smile, then put the ring away. There was no need to argue about the value of 10,000-year black jade. Based on her close relationship with Zhao Qianhe, it was clear that she had an extraordinary connection to the Sea of Innocence. If Yi Zichen insisted on paying, he'd seem too inflexible. He naturally wouldn't just take the black jade for free. He had plenty of time in the future, and he'd have plenty of opportunities to repay this favor. Shuemo nodded, then circled around Yi Zichen. It seems you've recovered quite well, but may I ask what you need so much 10,000-year black jade for? To condense my Dharma body, replied Yi Zichen directly. Really? Shuemo's eyes widened. What Dharma body do you need 10,000-year black jade for? Have you heard of the devil Dharma body? Shuemo shook her head. She knew all of the 108 Dharma bodies recorded in the God realm, but she'd never heard of the devil Dharma body. You're pretty amazing. Considering how expensive the devil Dharma body is, it'll definitely be amazing in the future. In the future, you'll be anti-upheaval's #1 war god. Kid, you have to work hard. Don't let me down. I won't let you down. Yi Zichen chuckled. He was looking forward to the devil Dharma body's final effects. Shuemo laughed, but as she did, she couldn't laugh anymore. Yi Zichen sensed her mood change, and couldn't help but ask. What is it? Guangfa's family sent him a message saying that everyone misses him. They're asking when he's going to come home to see them. Shuemo bit her lip, her eyes reddening. I didn't dare reply. Yi Zichen couldn't help but sigh when he saw Shuemo's tears welling up in her eyes. He understood how she was feeling, but she couldn't die like this. That's not right. Isn't the river Styx capable of finding the souls of the dead? Shuemo, when people die on the divine mountains, their souls return to the river Styx, right? And Shuemo nodded. It's not just the divine mountains. All the dead of the upper 3 realms return to the river Styx. I begged my dad to ask Emperor Hades to bring Guangfa's soul back from the river Styx, but he's in seclusion. I'm just waiting for him to come out of seclusion. When he does, I'll beg him to bring Guangfa back. I just don't know how long he'll be in seclusion, and how long I can keep his family in the dark. Emperor Hades was in seclusion? The way Yi Zichen saw it, this was most likely Emperor Hades's excuse. To put it bluntly, he didn't want to help. That little guy. When he considered this possibility, Yi Zichen muttered to himself. Shuemo didn't quite catch his words, and an indescribable light flashed through her eyes. Yi Zichen hurriedly interrupted with a smile. It's nothing. Emperor Hades said he's in seclusion, right? He didn't say that. His disciple said it. How about this? Find someone to open a path to the lower lands. Once I've condensed my Dharma body, I'll take you to Emperor Hades' secondary palace. You? Shuemo didn't quite believe him. Even her father hadn't seen Emperor Hades yet. How could Yi Zichen? You don't believe me, do you? Then do you still want to bring Qin Guangfa back? Said Yi Zichen in annoyance. Of course I do. Then listen to me. Find someone to open a path to the lower lands. Once I've condensed my Dharma body, we'll set off. I guarantee we'll be able to enter Emperor Hades' secondary palace. When she saw Yi Zichen's confident expression, for some reason, Shuemo actually believed him. She nodded vigorously, then dashed out of the room. When he saw how frantic she was, Yi Zichen couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. He took out the Dharma body records, his gaze blazing. Chapter 1246. Condense the Supreme Celestial Body. All of you can leave as well. I won't walk out of this room. Anyone can enter this room. The attendant nodded and walked out of the room. However, before they left, Yi Zichen thought of something else, so he added. Not even Shuemo can come in. Understood. The attendant silently retreated from the room. Just to be safe, Yi Zichen set up a few more seals around the room before entering the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. Tell Jilan to come see me. As soon as he entered the Yao Ceiling Pagoda's second floor, all the Yao greeted Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen picked a Yao to find Jilan, then headed straight for the secret room on the second floor. Young master, you were looking for me? Not long after, the graceful Jilan came into the secret room while twisting her slender waist. Bring me all the materials on this list from the second and first floors' warehouses. About 2 hours later, Ji-lan returned to the secret chamber, followed by several demon beasts from the Yao-ceiling pagoda. They all carried the materials Yi Zichen needed to condense his Dharma body. They were all neatly arranged, taking up more than 70% of the room. Young master, the materials you requested have been delivered. You may leave. Without my permission, no one is allowed to approach this secret chamber. Ji-lan left the secret room respectfully with the Yao. The moment the door closed, Yi Zichen took a deep breath as he looked at all the materials in the room. Begin. Even before forging, Yi Zichen had already gone through countless simulations and simulations. As a result, he didn't have much hesitation when he started to condense it. However, there was still a huge difference between actual forging and simulation. Yi Zichen had to be very careful when placing the materials. Release the divine tree. Yi Zichen carefully placed the divine wood on the avatar's calf. By now, no matter what material he placed, he had to be careful with every step. This was how condensing a Dharma body was. If there was a single mistake, then all the previous efforts would be wasted, and the materials would be completely destroyed. Under his prayers, the divine wood was successfully embedded. He then took another one and placed it in the adjacent position. Heavenly God Fruit. Heavenly Divine Stone. Yi Zichen added materials one by one into the Dharma body, then took out 10,000-year black jade. Brother, I'll leave the foundation to you. Don't make any mistakes. I have enough divine jade, but I don't have much divine wood. Yi Zichen bowed repeatedly, then licked his lips and tossed the 150 kilograms of 10,000-year black jade into the box. Something's not right. When he threw the black jade halfway, he felt like he had placed it in the wrong place. However, it was already too late for him to stop. Oh my God! Yi Zichen had already closed his eyes. Just as he was about to complete the basic form of his Dharma body, something actually went wrong with the 10,000-year black jade. He could not help but let out a long sigh. At this moment, he was already prepared to accept failure. Why isn't it destroyed? The embryonic form of his Dharma body still stood before him. The only difference was that Yi Zichen's Devil Dharma body seemed to have a few extra pairs of wings on its back. The Devil Dharma body on the map also had wings, but it was just a pair of wings. Yi Zichen seemed to have condensed 12 wings. No matter how he looked at it, the one in front of him was much more domineering than the one on the map. Could this be a blessing in disguise? Yi Zichen was somewhat unsure of the current situation. For a moment, he couldn't decide whether or not to continue. He looked around for a long time, but there were no signs of rejection anywhere. Then he glanced at the few thousand-year divine wood he had left. If he reconstructed the Dharma body, he wouldn't have enough. He'd have to use wood that was close to 1,000 years old. That would inevitably affect the Dharma body's power once it was complete. Keep going. At worst, I'll just start all over again. In any case, there's no sign of rejection. Who knows, I might end up making it even stronger. Yi Zichen no longer hesitated. He tossed the rest of the materials into the box. Supreme souls of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth corresponded to the 5 organs. After that, Yi Zichen took out a demon god's heart and placed it in the Dharma body's heart. The demon god's heart was actually the rarest of the materials, but there were surprisingly many of them on the second floor of the Yao-ceiling pagoda. This was because, back when the 5 Elements' great emperor was still alive, he'd slaughtered his way into the demon realm alone and killed quite a few demon gods. After placing the demon god's heart into the Dharma body, all that was left was the final step. Drawing patterns. Forming a Dharma body required divine patterns. Yi Zichen focused his gaze, picked up the divine ink, and calmed it a few times. Here's the final step. Yi Zichen gulped, then flipped open the divine rune diagrams in the secret tome and meticulously imprinted the divine runes onto his Dharma body. 6 intricate pieces of divine ink 300 divine patterns. It took Yi Zichen 3 full days to complete the process. When the last divine sigil left his hand and landed on the Dharma body, 300 divine sigil instantly coalesced into one. It's done. When he saw the Dharma body absorb all the divine patterns, Yi Zichen leapt to his feet in excitement. In order to form a supreme Dharma body, he hadn't slept for days. Although he'd made a few small mistakes, the results didn't seem to affect him at all. This was just a prototype, after all. Yi Zichen still needed to nourish the Dharma body with his divine power and blood. Even so, the Dharma body before him already looked somewhat imposing. He'd condensed his Dharma body in one go. If others found out about this, they might die of anger. Aside from the heirs of major family clans, everyone else condensed Dharma bodies bit by bit. Condensing it all in one go wasn't just a waste of money, it was also a form of mental torture. Come. As Yi Zichen muttered, the Dharma body before him began to fuse with him. As soon as the Dharma body entered his body, Yi Zichen felt as if he'd gained a clone. He could summon it at will. When he relaxed his tense nerves while condensing the Dharmakaya, exhaustion engulfed his whole body instantly. He pushed open the door to his secret room and saw 2 Yao standing outside. Ji Lan had obviously told them to stay here and wait for his orders. Take the materials inside to the storehouse and tell Ji Lan I'm going back. Yi Zichen left the Yao ceiling pagoda and returned to his room. When he spread out his divine sense, he saw that the 2 attendants were still standing in front of the door. As for how serious they were, Shuemo really had been stopped outside. She was obediently squatting by the flower beds and drawing circles. Yi Zichen originally wanted to rest, but when he realized that Shuemo might keep waiting, he had no choice but to endure his exhaustion and push open the door. Practically the instant he opened the door, Shuemo leapt in front of him and grabbed his hand. Chapter 1247. Heading to Emperor Hades' palace, are you in such a hurry? Yi Zichen couldn't help but ask. Shuemo practically dragged him out by force. The 2 of them hadn't even exchanged a few words. Shuemo said nothing. She simply glanced at Yi Zichen. From her expression, it was easy to see just how desperate she was. All right, let's go. In the face of her longing gaze, Yi Zichen sighed and nodded. After leaving the academy, the 2 of them left Skyspan City. Even with the aid of the flying boat, the 2 of them sat on it for a full 4 hours. When the surroundings were completely empty, with barely any villages or cities in sight, Shuemo finally landed the flying boat. Are you sure you can really take me to Emperor Hades' palace? When the boat landed, Shuemo's gaze was serious. I can definitely take you there, but I can't be sure if you'll even get to see Emperor Hades. With Su Yun's connections, going to Emperor Hades' palace wouldn't be difficult. However, he had no connection to Emperor Hades. Even with Su Yun's help, he didn't dare promise to take Shuemo to see Emperor Hades. As long as we can go to Emperor Hades' palace, that's fine. Shuemo was completely serious. They walked shoulder to shoulder through the wasteland. Before long, Yi Zichen saw a woman standing in front of them. Zhao Qianhe. Big Sister Qianhe. Shuemo jogged up to her. You're going to the lower lands with him? When she saw Yi Zichen, her expression changed. Yi Zichen didn't know how he'd offended this ruler. Even if she didn't like him, as a junior, he still had to bow to her. Senior. A scrutinizing gaze landed on Yi Zichen. It belonged to Zhao Qianhe. Her sharp eyes shone with a piercing light, as if she could see right through him. After a few breaths of time, Zhao Qianhe looked away, but an icy transmission appeared in Yi Zichen's sea of consciousness. Kid, you should know that if I wanted to crush you, it would be as easy as crushing an ant. As he transmitted, Yi Zichen felt a stabbing pain in his sea of consciousness. His eyes flashed with fury, and he glared at Zhao Qianhe. Senior, what exactly do you mean? Yi Zichen, Big Sister Qianhe you. How could Shuemo not see that something was going on between the 2 of them? She looked at them in bewilderment. Zhao Qianhe hadn't expected Yi Zichen to say something like that. Raising his eyebrows, he spoke without any concealment. I've already warned you before, and now you want to bring Bubbly Mo to the bottom of the Divine Mountain. What are your intentions? Senior, do you have persecutory delusions, or do you think too highly of yourself? Yi Zichen laughed inexplicably. Shui Mo wanted to resurrect our members, so I told her to go to Emperor Hades' secondary palace. What's wrong with that? Big Sister Qianhe, I told Yi Zichen to come with me, said Shui Mo. Emperor Hades' palace? Don't you know what kind of place Emperor Hades' palace is? You think you can go there by yourself? Zhao Qianhe narrowed her eyes. Even a ruler can't just go there on a whim. You said you wanted to bring Bubbly Mo there, but the way I see it, you're just trying to use the palace as a pretext to plot against us. Yi Zichen clenched his fist. He really hated self-righteous people like her. Can't say it, snorted Zhao Qianhe. That's right, I'm plotting against you. Yi Zichen couldn't be bothered to argue with her, so he simply admitted it. He nodded repeatedly and chuckled. Shui Mo, since your big sister Qianhe doesn't trust me, let's not go. I don't want anyone to suspect me of harboring evil intentions. Goodbye. Don't go. Shui Mo was stuck between the two of them, but she was in an awkward position. She tried to tell Yi Zichen not to leave in a fit of pique, but at the same time, she tried to explain herself to Zhao Qianhe. To her surprise, Yi Zichen's response actually made Zhao Qianhe relax her guard slightly. She looked at Yi Zichen meaningfully, then waved her hand, causing a pitch-black wormhole to appear. This is the path to the lower lands. Yi Zichen glanced over his shoulder. Just now, she'd looked like she didn't trust him, but now she'd opened the wormhole? As expected, a woman's thoughts couldn't be understood by normal people. Zhao Qianhe took out a jade slip, placed it in Shui Mo's hands, and said, "Take this slip. Keep this jade slip well. If you encounter any danger, crush it and I'll rush over immediately." As she spoke, she glanced meaningfully at Yi Zichen. Obviously, she was referring to Yi Zichen's accident. Yi Zichen ignored all of this. If he didn't do anything wrong, he wouldn't be afraid of a crooked shadow. Big Sister Qianhe, Yi Zichen isn't that kind of person, said Shui Mo on his behalf. No one knows for sure whether he really is or isn't. Bubbly Mo, you're still young. Don't think of everyone as kind. She gently patted Shui Mo on the shoulder, then gestured at the wormhole. Alright, hurry up and go down. But don't stay down there for too long. Your dad said the God Realm isn't particularly peaceful, and the lower lands are even more chaotic. You have to be careful. I know, said Shui Mo with a sweet smile. You. Hurry up and follow Bubbly Mo to Emperor Hades' secondary palace. Zhao Qianhe's attitude towards Yi Zichen instantly underwent an earth-shattering transformation. Don't try to be unreasonable. You should know that I'm a ruler. With that, an overwhelming ruler's pressure bore down on Yi Zichen. The corners of Yi Zichen's mouth twitched. She was being too damn unreasonable. He reluctantly stepped into the wormhole. Shui Mo obeyed Zhao Qianhe's repeated reminders and stepped into the wormhole as well. When the two of them disappeared, Zhao Qianhe frowned and rested her chin on her hand. Why does this kid look so much like the new Lord of 7 Stars? As soon as the thought occurred to her, her lips twitched. You're overthinking things. Perhaps in consideration of Shui Mo's need to go through the wormhole was relatively stable. There were no spatial cracks in the middle. When they emerged from the wormhole, they just happened to be standing on the edge of the river Styx. So this is the world beneath the Divine Mountains? Shui Mo looked around curiously. She'd been born on the Divine Mountains, but this was her first time in the lower lands. Her gaze fell on the river Styx, and she couldn't help but ask. This is the river Styx, right? That's right. Yi Zichen smiled and nodded, but at that moment, he froze. Chapter 1248. Resurrect in red envelope group. Shui Mo's eyes brimmed with curiosity when she saw what Yi Zichen was holding. She looked at her phone curiously and looked at the messages that kept popping up. What is this? Yi Zichen licked his lips. Since arriving on the Divine Mountains, his phone hadn't rung once. Now that the phone was working again, could it be? He skillfully unlocked his phone and opened the social media app. At the top of the message was the red packet server that Yi Zichen had created. God of Thunder, I'm so envious that you guys can ascend. I haven't sensed the thunder tribulation yet. I don't know when I'll be able to reunite with you guys. Yu Lao, sigh, there's nothing good up there. It's chaotic and chaotic. Old Lord and I are regretting coming here. Old Lord Taishang, isn't that right? It's all human rights here. It's not as comfortable as staying down there. Yu Lao, don't bother about him. His alchemy skills are being abused here, so he's upset. Immortality Peach Fairy, are you serious? Is there anyone who can compare to Elder Lord in pill refinement? Mother of Lightning, are the people up there that strong? Neza, that's pretty harsh. My dad just got scolded by their captain. Pagoda bearing Heavenly Kingly, you talk too much. Looks like you're itching for a beating. Neza, how dare you? Is this how you talk to the second captain? God of Fortune, looks like third Prince Neza is living a better life than Heavenly Kingly. Yu Lao, are you guys together now? Yu Lao, I'm with the Elder Supreme Lord. Northwest Divine Mountain, where are you guys? Neza, my father and I are on the southeastern Divine Mountain. King Qingguang, are there many areas up there? Is this for real? Yi Zichen couldn't help but be stunned as he read the news. The people of the Divine Mountains could actually communicate with their subordinates at the same time? This group of people from the technical department was pretty good. It had only been a while, and they had already set up the information network. Yi Zichen licked his lips, then typed out a message. Only idealism. You guys seem to be having a good time. Yu Lao, Emperor Yi. God of Fortune. Isn't that Emperor Yi? Am I seeing things? Immortality Peach Fairy. Brother, I missed you. King Chujiang. Emperor Yi actually came out. The moment Yi Zichen appeared, the people in the group instantly exploded. Many of the lurking old monsters came to the group to greet them. It really can be sent, Yi Zichen was shocked, but he couldn't help but chuckle when he saw the scrolling message. Everything was just as it had been in the beginning. Neza, Brother Yi, you're also on the Divine Mountain, right? Which Divine Mountain are you on? Only idealism. Extreme North, the Jade Emperor and the Great Emperor of Dong Yu are both here. Yanlua Wang, how is our boss doing now? How should he answer this? Yi Zichen thought about it for a moment, then decided to leave some face for the Jade Emperor and East Peak. Only idealism, not bad. They're both emperors. How could they be bad? With that, Yi Zichen seemed to think of something. He took out several thousand bottles of immortal and divine brew, scanned them with his phone, and disappeared. The moment he disappeared, a red packet appeared in the group. Even after such a long time, these fellows' hand speed was still astonishing. God of Fortune, Heavenly Brew. Ah, I got it. Immortality Peach Fairy. Io, why is it this wine? I'm a girl. Wu Gang, I was too slow. Everyone in the group was either happy or distressed over whether or not they got a red packet. As soon as Yi Zichen sent one, Yu Lao and the others followed suit. Soon, the group was flooded with red packet. Naturally, Yi Zichen didn't try to snatch them. Of all the people in the group, he was probably doing the best. Even if he tried, he wouldn't get any good treasures. What he cared about was that, since wine could be scanned and sent through red packets, he should be able to send pills, talismans, and artifacts from the God realm as well. Back when Yi Zichen was still an ordinary person, he'd relied on their red packets to slowly rise to prominence. Now that he'd done well, it was time to help his old buddies out. Yi Zichen took out quite a few pills, talismans, and demigod artifacts from the Yao Ceiling Pagoda and sent them all in red packet. As for snatching red packets in the future, if he wanted to, he'd have to snatch the red packets sent by the Sky Sovereigns and Diviners. The information network had only just begun to spread, and it wasn't yet widespread. Everyone in the group was familiar with each other. So long as he had enough time, he could spread the word. Never mind diviners. He might even have a chance to snatch red packets from the Demon Emperor, Bayan, and East Emperor Tai. If he could snatch red packets from these big shots, wouldn't that be wonderful? The group was just as joyous and harmonious as ever. Yi Zichen quietly lurked after sending red packet. He naturally wanted to chat with his old friends in the heavenly court and the underworld, but right now, his priority was to take Shuemo to the river Styx. What kind of treasure is this? It seems like it can chat with so many people. It's so much better than the communication slips the divine mountains use. Can you give me one too? Shuemo had been peeking at it for a long time. The longer she looked, the more interested she became. This is a product of our R&D department's research and development. Right now, it's still in the testing phase. Once we get out of Emperor Hades' secondary palace, I'll get someone to give you one. Sure. Shuemo laughed. At that moment, Yi Zichen's phone buzzed again. He took it out and saw that it was a message from Shuemo. You're in the lower lands? When he saw the message, Yi Zichen froze despite himself. He looked around. How did you know? Someone told me you popped up in the group. The R&D department's network hasn't reached the northern Divine Mountain yet. All right, I'm in the lower lands, near the river Styx, said Yi Zichen with a smile. Why did you go there? Why didn't you go back to Raging Flame City? I'm here because I have some business to attend to. Once I'm done here, I'll go look for you in Raging Flame City. All right, go ahead. Shuemo put her phone away, her eyes wide. Wow. Not only can you chat with multiple people, but you can even chat alone? Can you give everyone an anti-upheaval one? That way, it'll be much easier to assign missions. Yi Zichen couldn't help but arch his brows. Not a bad idea. All right. If we have enough, I'll do my best to give everyone an anti-upheaval one. When the time comes, just tell me how much you need. Shuemo giggled. What's there to talk about? You didn't mention money when you gave me the 10,000-year black jade, did you? If you wanted to talk about money, I'd be more than happy to. Yi Zichen patted Shuemo on the head, then turned to the river Styx. That's all for later. Let's go to Emperor Hades' secondary palace first. Yi Zichen patted her on the head. Shuemo blushed. She nodded, then heard Yi Zichen yell at the top of his lungs. Chapter 1249. The river Styx. Shuemo never would have guessed Yi Zichen would enter Emperor Hades' secondary palace like this. She stood quietly in the back and waited, but the river Styx's surface was still and calm. There were only a few ripples in the breeze. Caw caw caw. At that moment a crow flew overhead. Its caws seemed to mock Yi Zichen's embarrassment. He narrowed his eyes at the crows, then forgot about the rippling waters of the river Styx. This was an accident. Wait a moment. He gestured for her to calm down, then walked to the edge of the river. Iyun, it's me, Yi Zichen. Hurry up and come get me. Still, there was no movement. At that moment, the crow that mocked Yi Zichen earlier also flew back and cackled in the sky. Whoosh! Yi Zichen tossed a pebble at the crow. To his surprise, the crow was extraordinarily agile. It performed a 720-degree somersault in the air to avoid the pebble, then flapped its wings and flew away. Yi Zichen could vaguely make out a lump of something from its butt, which landed in front of him. The corners of Yi Zichen's mouth twitched. Shuemo, don't worry. I'll definitely get you into Emperor Hades' secondary palace. He turned to Shuemo and comforted her. By now, rather than saying Shuemo was anxious, it was more accurate to say that he was. Shuemo nodded calmly. Yi Zichen narrowed his eyes and transmitted through his divine sense. What are you doing? Hurry up and come get me. I've been calling for you from outside the river Styx for so long. Are you in the river Styx? Su Yun's transmission finally appeared in Yi Zichen's sea of consciousness. Wait a moment. I'll come get you. Hold on tight. As he urged Su Yun to hurry up, Yi Zichen glanced at Shui Mo. He'll be here in a moment. As expected, not long after Su Yun said he'd come get him, the river Styx seemed to have been cut in half. The two sides of the river crashed into the front, causing waves to surge. In the middle of the river, Su Yun walked out of the underworld river, followed by two people who looked like mermen. Not bad. Yi Zichen nodded to himself when he saw how they greeted him. Shouldn't you be on the Divine Mountain now? Why aren't you staying there? What are you doing here? Originally, he wanted to teach Su Yun a lesson for being late and regain some face. He didn't expect old Su to give him a good scolding as soon as he came out. There weren't just two merfolk behind them, but two entire squads of merfolk. They stood around Su Yun, looking vigilantly into the distance. Of course, despite his complaints, Su Yun still gave Yi Zichen a bear hug. Can you give me some face? I still have friends here, Yi Zichen whispered into her ear. Su Yun pursed his lips into a smile. It's precisely because I saw a girl there that I did it. You're not satisfied with my little sister, and you're messing around outside. Are you too arrogant, or do you think I can't handle a knife? Yi Zichen's mouth twitched again, then he patted Su Yun's back. The two of them separated, but Su Yun's gaze seemed to be saying, "You win." Shui Mo stood off in the distance, visibly nervous. If she wasn't mistaken, this youth was probably Emperor Hades's disciple. From the looks of it, Yi Zichen's relationship with him wasn't shallow. No wonder he was so sure he'd brought her into Emperor Hades' secondary palace. I did reach the Divine Mountains, but I came back down, replied Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen answered Su Yun's question, then pointed at Shui Mo. Let me introduce you. This is Shui Mo next. He introduced her to Su Yun. This is Emperor Hades's first true disciple, Su Yun. Hello. Shui Mo bowed and nodded. Hello. Su Yun nodded and smiled. Before Yi Zichen could explain his intentions, Su Yun laughed. I know why you're here, but never mind. Let's talk about it in the palace. With that, Su Yun gestured for them to enter, then led them into the river Styx. It was different from the last time Yi Zichen was here. After entering the river Styx, he didn't sense any traces of vicious beasts. Quite a few people stood around Emperor Hades' secondary palace, as if preparing for war. Every kilometer you'd see a squad of 6. The squad leader was a Sky Supreme, and the rest were Earth Supremes. The entire territory of the river Styx was enveloped in a heavy, oppressive aura. Keep patrolling. If you notice anything out of the ordinary, report it to the lieutenant. In front of the palace, Su Yun coldly turned his head and spoke to the merfolk guards behind him. The merfolk nodded solemnly, then returned to their posts. Let's go. Only then did a smile appear on his face as he entered Emperor Hades' secondary palace. Have a seat. Su Yun nodded at Yi Zichen and the others, then placed a few more immortal fruits on the table. What's going on outside? It wasn't like this the last time I was here, said Yi Zichen as he sat down and took a bite. There were some problems, but we had no choice. Is it the Yao? Probed Yi Zichen. Su Yun nodded. Are the Yao really colluding with the demons to deal with us gods? Asked Shui Mo nervously. You told her? Su Yun frowned at Yi Zichen. I'm not that talkative. It's just that not long ago we went on a mission. Subterranean beasts attacked dozens of villages and tribes outside Barren Sand City, and there was a huge amount of miasma on them. Were there any other clans? Asked Su Yun. I didn't see any. That's good. Su Yun let out a long sigh of relief, but the solemnity between his brows deepened. When he saw his solemn expression, Yi Zichen knew just how heavy a burden his brother was shouldering. Although Shui Mo was worried about the Yao and demons allying together, she was more concerned about reviving Chen Guangfa. She wanted to speak several times, but decided this wasn't the right time. After a few internal struggles, she could only purse her lips, clench her fists, and focus on the fresh fruit. Iyun, actually, we're here because... When he saw Shui Mo's conflicted expression, Yi Zichen decided to speak on her behalf. I know you're here to revive that youth named Chen Guangfa, right? Shuemo hurriedly put the fruit down and rose to her feet. That's right, we're here for him. I wonder if you can help me fish him out from the river of time? Shuemo was clearly nervous. No matter the cost, I'm willing to bear it. Chapter 1250. Chapter 1250. Emperor Hades exiting seclusion. He couldn't do it. Those 3 words struck Shuemo's heart like a sledgehammer. All of her hopes, all of them, vanished like smoke in the wind. Her delicate face was deathly pale, and her arms trembled uncontrollably. Tears welled up in her eyes. Yi Zichen knit his brows. He naturally didn't think Suiyun was saying this because he didn't want to help them, but saying it so bluntly was a huge blow to Shuemo. You should all know that the river Styx's other name is the River of Time. Suiyun stood in the center of the great hall and spoke once more. The souls of everyone who died in the upper 3 realms return here. It's true that you can find their souls and revive them. However, you might not know this, but the river Styx is actually a divine artifact belonging to my master, Emperor Hades. What? When Yi Zichen heard this, he trembled. This river that separated the human and Yao realms, the one that brought countless souls back to this place, was actually one of Emperor Hades' divine artifacts. How was this possible? You're saying the river Styx is Emperor Hades' divine artifact? Asked Yi Zichen. Are you sure you're not joking? The river Styx has existed since the beginning of the upper 3 realms. Even the souls of the dead must sink here. Is it a divine artifact? That's right. In the face of Yi Zichen's questions, Suiyun nodded without showing any sign of weakness. It is a divine artifact. In truth, reviving Chen Guangfa isn't difficult at all. He's an early-stage Sky Supreme. Given my master's strength, he shouldn't suffer too much backlash. It's just that he's in seclusion right now, and I don't know when he'll come out. I can't use the river, so I can only tell you that I'm powerless. Then the artifact spirit, said Yi Zichen. Yi, say no more. Given our relationship, if I really could help you, I wouldn't be telling you all this. I said that just now to explain to you that I really can't do it. Suiyun cut Yi Zichen off. If there's nothing else, you should hurry up and leave. As you can see, the river Styx is currently in a state of war. The Yao might attack at any moment and try to force their way across. At this time, this place will be the main battlefield for the gods, Yao, and demons. Let's leave while it's still safe. Yi Zichen remained silent. He knew that Suiyun was speaking from the bottom of his heart. Do you need help? Asked Yi Zichen. He no longer pursued Chen Guangfa's question. Probably not in the short term, but I'm not sure about the future. However, Master has already prepared a contingency plan for me, so it shouldn't be a problem. All right. If you need help, go find Zuemo in Flame City. I'll tell her about our relationship in advance and get her to send people to help you. At the same time, contact me. Even if I can't be of much help, I'll still stand by your side. All right. Yi Zichen hugged her tightly, then stood up with a long sigh. Then we won't bother you any longer. Good luck. With that, Yi Zichen looked at Shuemo, who was still sitting in her chair. Let's go. Shuemo seemed to have lost her soul. She didn't react at all. Yi Zichen sighed, then reached out and grabbed her arm. After learning that she couldn't save Chen Guangfa, Shuemo returned to her original state. She allowed Yi Zichen to drag her out of the palace. At that moment, a low voice rang out from within Emperor Hades' palace. If you can convince your father to sign an alliance with the river Styx, and if you can send a clone or your true body to guard the river Styx for the next 20 years, I can find that youth in the river Styx. When Shuemo heard this, she froze in shock. She looked behind her in bewilderment. Dare I ask, are you Emperor Hades? That's right. A middle-aged man in his 30s suddenly walked into the palace. He was 7 feet tall and of medium build. His hair was neatly coiled into a bun, and there was a strand of silver in the center of his black hair. His purple robes exuded an air of nobility, and his peach-blossoming eyes brimmed with boundless charm. "Master," said Suiyun in shock. You've left seclusion." When Yi Zichen saw him, he froze as well. If this was Emperor Hades, then what was that kid doing back then? He hadn't seen him in half a year, but he'd aged so quickly. Emperor Hades nodded and smiled at Suiyun, then stepped in front of Shuemo. "What do you think? Can you do it?" Shuemo looked at his smiling face and pursed her lips. She didn't say anything for a long while. She was delighted that Emperor Hades had appeared at a time like this, but she hesitated over his conditions. The river Styx and her family represented two peak-level powers. This sort of alliance had enormous influence on both sides. Furthermore, Emperor Hades had asked her father to send either his true body or a clone to guard the river Styx. Even if her father doted on her, she didn't think she could do it. "Your Majesty, can't you ask for something else?" asked Shuemo. "Of course not." Emperor Hades's tone left no room for negotiation. "If you want to save him, this is the only way." "What, you're the sea god Shuiyang's most beloved second daughter. Can't you persuade that stubborn old geezer?" "My request isn't excessive. If Yaoan demons invade, the divine mountains won't be spared. I'm only doing this to bring forward our alliance. Are you sure you don't want to try?" After a while, Shuemo bit her lip and said, "I can try." "All right." Emperor Hades nodded in satisfaction. "So long as you can convince Shuiyang, I'll immediately find that youth from the river of time. You can go back now." With that, Emperor Hades brushed his sleeves at Shuemo. In the blink of an eye, Shuemo vanished from Emperor Hades's secondary palace. Yi Zichen stared at Emperor Hades in astonishment. This Emperor Hades was far too different from the youth he'd seen before. "Are you really Emperor Hades?" "Of course. When you saw me, I was in my waning years. That's why I looked like a youth." Emperor Hades smiled calmly. This junior greets Emperor Hades. After confirming that he really was Emperor Hades, Yi Zichen bowed respectfully. "There's no need for that." Emperor Hades dragged Yi Zichen to his feet, then laughed. "I have to thank you. If you hadn't brought my precious daughter, Shuiyang, I wouldn't have been able to carry out my plans. Now that she'd asked, Shuiyang wouldn't have refused. Right? Did you bring the Xianyuan sword? Let me see it." "What do you want?" asked Yi Zichen vigilantly. Chapter 1251. Emperor Hades, the first emperor of all time. There were still seals left? Yi Zichen knit his brows. He wasn't quite sure if Emperor Hades was telling the truth or not. However, everything else Emperor Hades said was true. If he really wanted to steal it, Yi Zichen had no way of doing so. At the end of the day, he wasn't strong enough. When he recalled that Emperor Hades had helped him reach initial success in the Tao of the Five Elements, he most likely wouldn't harm him. Yi Zichen didn't hesitate for long. He pulled the Xianyuan sword from the Yaoxiling pagoda. As soon as the blade left the pagoda, the entire palace shook. Its faint golden light was incomparably dazzling, and the character Xianyuan engraved on the hilt exuded an unstoppable sharpness. As expected of the first divine sword of the primordial era, no matter how many years have passed, its tyrannical might hasn't diminished in the slightest. Ming Di gently stroked the blade of the Xianyuan sword, his lips curling into a faint sigh. Then, with a light tap of his finger on the blade, Xianyuan Xiang, who had been hiding within the Xianyuan sword, emerged. When she emerged, her eyes were filled with confusion. "Why did you come out?" She looked around in bewilderment, then glanced at Yi Zichen suspiciously. Emperor Hades's gaze was complicated, as if he were reminiscing. "Xianyuan Xiang, long time no see." The low voice made Xianyuan Xiang turn around. When she saw Ming Di in front of her, her eyes flashed with a trace of shock. "Emperor Hades?" Only then did she take a closer look at her surroundings. This is Emperor Hades' secondary palace. How did I get here?" "Big Sister Xiang, Do you know Emperor Hades? Yi Zichen was stunned. Xianyuan Xiang nodded. I do, but I'm not familiar with him. Do you know how I got this seal? He was the one who sealed it. Just thinking about it makes me angry. She puffed up her cheeks and rolled her eyes. Emperor Hades couldn't help but chuckle. I did it for your own good. Back when the Yellow Emperor was forced into reincarnation, if I hadn't sealed away your brilliance, it would have been far too easy for the gods, Yao, and demons to find you. Then I really have to thank you, said Xianyuan Xiang, unappreciative. Big Sister Xiang. No matter what, Emperor Hades was one of the most powerful beings in the upper three realms. It was better to be polite when speaking to him. It's fine. Emperor Hades waved his hand coolly. When he looked at Xianyuan Xiang, Yi Zichen actually sensed a hint of doting. It can't be, right? Could it be that Emperor Hades had fallen in love with the spirit of the Xianyuan sword? If news of this were to spread, the three realms would explode. Humph. Xianyuan Xiang didn't give him any face at all. She snorted, but Emperor Hades smiled calmly, as if sensing their strange gazes. Only then did he retract his doting gaze. As you can see, Xianyuan Xiang and I are old acquaintances. This time, you can leave her to me without worry, right? What? Xianyuan Xiang asked, confused. Emperor Hades pursed his lips into a smile. After all these years, you've managed to break the first few seals, but no one but me can break the last two seals. I told Yi Zichen to summon you so you could break the seal. Have you found your conscience? Xianyuan Xiang snorted with a faint smile. Emperor Hades nodded. Xianyuan Xiang turned to Yi Zichen. Then give him the Xianyuan sword. He probably won't take it. Besides, you also know that Big Sister's heart is with you. The corners of Yi Zichen's mouth twitched, but Xianyuan Xiang's words made him feel completely at ease as he handed the Xianyuan sword over to Emperor Hades. Then I'll leave it to Senior Emperor Hades. Nodding calmly, Emperor Hades picked up the Xianyuan sword and left the Great Hall with Xianyuan Xiang. Even after they disappeared, Yi Zichen's gaze remained fixed on the spot where they'd disappeared. Su Yun walked over and patted him on the shoulder. Don't worry, Master will definitely not snatch your treasures. Yi Zichen nodded. Su Yun also chuckled. I'm afraid you won't be able to leave before the Xianyuan sword is unsealed. It just so happens that we haven't been together for a long time. Recently I've collected quite a lot of those divine souls and ferocious beasts. Shall we have a drink today? Let's drink till we're drunk. Although he said he wouldn't leave until he was drunk, Su Yun restrained himself while drinking. Moreover, at their level, it was too difficult to get drunk. The table was filled with bottles of alcohol. Yi Zichen and the others burped, but all they talked about was their time in the modern realm. What do you think the modern realm is like now? Su Yun leaned barefoot against a stone pillar and muttered. It's probably still sealed in ice. Yi Zichen sighed. When we left, wasn't it all sealed in ice? We were the only ones sent to the lower realms. This life is so dreamy, don't you think so, Yi Zi? That's right. Yi Zichen smiled calmly. Memories of the past flooded his mind. He didn't want to dwell on them, and he was afraid they'd make them sad, so he changed the subject. Earlier, you said there was some movement from the Yao. What's the situation like? At the mention of the Yao, Su Yun put down his bottle of alcohol, his gaze solemn. The Yao haven't been peaceful lately. The river Styx is their only line of defense, and they're under tremendous pressure. The only line of defense. Yi Zichen furrowed his brows. Su Yun nodded slightly, then dipped his finger in the wine and drew a picture on the floor of the palace. This is the river Styx. To the north is Yao territory, and to the south is humanity's territory. The humans have their own divine mountains, but so do the Yao. The divine mountains are not connected to each other. You can only reach them through teleportation formations. Right now, the Yao and humans haven't shed all pretenses of cordiality. If they really do start fighting, all we have to do is destroy all their teleportation formations. That way, the Yao won't be able to teleport directly to the humans' divine mountains. The only way is to cross the river Styx and open a path to the divine mountains from human territory. When the two sides fight, the river Styx will become the main battlefield. In particular, the news that their master was in a period of decline had been noticed by those in the demon race, and their desire to fight was even more stirred. The subterranean beasts you encountered on the northern divine mountain might have been a test. But now that Master has emerged from seclusion, all our problems are easily solved. So long as he's here, even if the Yao want to attack, they'll have to endure. As he said this, Su Yun was indescribably confident. This gave Yi Zichen a better understanding of just how strong Emperor Hades was. He'd single-handedly intimidated the entire Yao realm, so they wouldn't dare harbor any designs on human territory. Emperor Hades, the first emperor of all time, truly lived up to his reputation. Chapter 1252. The meeting of the two emperors. The Netherworld River can stop the demon race from crossing, but the demon race doesn't have that many restrictions if they want to cross to the human race. Especially since humans are situated between Yao and demons. If war really breaks out, we'll be surrounded by enemies from both sides. As he spoke, Suiyun sighed. Suddenly, he noticed that Yi Zichen's aura was rising like crazy. Yi Zichen had no idea what was going on. All he could do was close his eyes and circulate his spiritual energy. Boom! In just a few breaths of time, his aura rose from a 7th-stage Earth Supreme to an 8th-stage one. Furthermore, it didn't stop there. Instead, it grew faster and faster. Peak of the 8th stage. Peak of the 9th stage. 1st stage Sky Supreme. 2nd stage. Yi Zichen's cultivation rose like crazy, as if he'd been injected with a catalyst. Su Yun, who'd been watching over him, was stunned. In just half an hour, Yi Zichen had risen from a 7th-stage Earth Supreme to a 5th-stage Sky Supreme. Boom! He broke through again. A 6th-stage Sky Supreme. When Yi Zichen broke through to the 6th-stage Sky Supreme level, his frenzied aura began to slow down. At that moment, Yi Zichen opened his eyes. Even he found this a bit strange. Yi Ziyu. Su Yun walked up to him, wide-eyed. What's going on with you? I don't know. Yi Zichen was somewhat dumbfounded. He'd once suspected that his Dharma body was complete, but when he looked inside himself, he discovered that it was still in the midst of nourishment. His Tao of the 5 elements showed no signs of breaking through. This sudden breakthrough left him flabbergasted and confused. Is it the Xianyuan sword? Before he'd even finished speaking, Emperor Hades, who'd gone to unseal the Xianyuan sword, returned. When he saw the floor littered with wine bottles, he knit his brows. Suiyun hurriedly put the bottles away. Emperor Hades glanced at Yi Zichen. A 6th-stage Sky Supreme? From his tone, it seemed he was a bit disappointed. Unsealing the Xianyuan sword's energy helped you reach this level? And here I thought you'd become a diviner right away. You broke the Xianyuan sword seal? Asked Yi Zichen. Emperor Hades nodded. The seal has already been broken. Xianyuan Xiang needs time to absorb the energy after breaking the seal. Leave the Xianyuan sword in the palace for now. I'll hand it over to you when she wakes up. Okay, Yi Zichen nodded. The problem with the Xianyuan sword has been dealt with. Now let's go visit my old friend. Emperor Hades's eyes darkened. He flicked his sleeves and sat on the throne in the palace. Yun, go to the palace gates and welcome our honored guest. Emperor Hades has an esteemed guest. Then this junior. Yi Zichen wanted to bid farewell, but Emperor Hades shook his head and smiled. No need, just stay here. You'll have to meet this person sooner or later. Just stay here and listen. Yes. Although he didn't understand what Emperor Hades was up to, he obediently stayed behind. The palace was incomparably quiet. Emperor Hades sat meticulously on his throne and looked straight ahead. Yi Zichen placed his hands on his knees and sat down as well. The palace doors rumbled. Before long, Suiyun returned, followed by Shui Mo and a middle-aged man who looked about the same age as Emperor Hades. The man wore azure robes and a crown. He looked like a noble. As soon as he entered, he glanced at Yi Zichen, then walked up to the first chair on the right and sat down. As soon as he sat down, he immediately criticized Yi Zichen. "Gongyan, don't you think you're being a little too petty?" "How am I petty?" "You have every right to refuse, don't you? Great Emperor Shuiyang, you're trying to accuse me of being petty?" "I don't dare." Emperor Hades feigned confusion and chuckled. Yi Zichen's gaze shifted. This was Shuiyang, Shui Mo's father. Based on his aura, he wasn't the slightest bit weaker than Emperor Hades. Shui Mo sensed the change in Yi Zichen's aura. Her pupils constricted, and she ran up to him. "How did you suddenly become so strong?" "Shoo, I'll tell you in a bit." Shuiyang glanced at Yi Zichen, then turned to Emperor Hades. "Don't quibble with me. Tell me, who else can you contact? If the Sea of Innocence is the only one willing to cooperate with you, there's no way I'll agree." "Old man Shui, when are you going to change that temper of yours?" Emperor Hades couldn't help but sigh. "Of course I wouldn't put you in danger alone. If I told you about the Four Directions Palace. Buy-in. Don't you believe me?" Ming Di chuckled. At this moment, a golden document suddenly appeared in Ming Di's palace. At Emperor Hades' signal, Shuiyang unfurled the document, and the image of a cold-looking man in dragon robes appeared. "The Four Directions Palace is willing to form an alliance with the River Styx." That was all he said, and he sounded a little reluctant when he said it. However, when Shuiyang saw this, he couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. "Gongyan, I'm starting to admire you." As for the deeper meaning behind his words, Emperor Hades had no desire to pursue the matter. He stretched out his hand, took the golden document, and placed it beside his throne. Then, he raised his eyebrows. Then he arched his brows and said, "Great Emperor Shuiyang, what do you think? Do you want to cooperate with the River Styx?" Shuiyang didn't give a direct answer. Instead, he narrowed his eyes at Emperor Hades and asked, "Are the Yao in dire straits right now?" Emperor Hades said, "Of course. Why else do you think I'd find you?" Shuiyang asked, "How confident are you?" Emperor Hades said, "It's no longer a question of how confident we are. It's either 100% chance of survival or no chance at all, and everyone dies." Shuiyang asked, "Have you contacted the others?" Emperor Hades said, "Not yet. Their conversation was a mystery, but everyone else in the palace had more or less heard it." Shuiyang rubbed his chin, then looked at Yi Zichen. "This is Yi Zichen, the Yellow Emperor's reincarnation. He has the Xianyuan sword and the Yao Ceiling Pagoda." Emperor Hades told him everything he knew about Yi Zichen. Shuiyang instantly looked at him strangely, while Yi Zichen's eyes widened. What was going on? He just told him everything? Yi Zichen didn't know what to do. All he could do was grin drily and nod. At that moment, Emperor Hades dropped another bombshell. "In the future, he might even become your son-in-law. What do you think? Shouldn't you thank me for letting your father-in-law and son-in-law meet earlier?" Yi Zichen. Shuiyang. Shui Mo, on the other hand, was bewildered. She blinked and looked them up and down. Chapter 1253. Great Emperor Shuiyang's obsession. Emperor Hades's words baffled everyone in the hall. Yi Zichen and Shui Mo, in particular, glanced at each other. Both of them were bewildered. Their relationship was purely that of brothers. They hadn't even reached the stage of lovers yet. It seemed Emperor Hades was overthinking things, but as juniors, they couldn't very well retort. Shuiyang's expression was unsightly, and his gaze lingered on Yi Zichen. The more a father-in-law looked at his son-in-law, the angrier he got. At first, he'd thought Yi Zichen wasn't bad, but now there wasn't a single part of him he felt comfortable looking at. This great emperor took it seriously. Yi Zichen could sense Shuiyang's displeasure from his gaze. He nodded and smiled, but all he got in return was a cold glare. Haha, old man Shui, you took it seriously? At that moment, Emperor Hades burst into laughter. I was just joking. Look at you. I just wanted to tell you that Yi Zichen has two of the God Realm's great divine artifacts, and he's currently on the northern divine mountain. Take good care of him. Humph, divine artifacts belong to the strongest. If he's not strong enough to protect them, he'll just give them to someone else. I don't have time to keep an eye on him every day. Shui Yang's gaze was as unfriendly as ever, and he glowered at Emperor Hades. I represent the Sea of Innocence in signing an alliance with you. In half a month, I'll send a clone over. Farewell. Shui Yang cupped his hands at Emperor Hades, then rose to his feet. Little Mo, come back with me. Dad, I'll go back with Yi Zichen, said Shui Mo. What do you mean go back with him? Come with me. Shui Yang didn't give Shui Mo any time to respond. He waved his sleeves, and a wave of astral energy wrapped around her. The two of them transformed into streaks of light and disappeared from Emperor Hades' palace. The atmosphere was awkward. Yi Zichen shrugged and watched them leave. Su Yun also sensed that something was off. Only Emperor Hades. Your Majesty, Shui Mo and I are brothers, Yi Zichen couldn't help but explain. Of course I know. Ming Di nodded indifferently. I've lived for so long. Do you think I wouldn't be able to tell if something was going on between the two of you? Then you. I did it on purpose. Ming Di shrugged with a faint smile. I already said it was just a joke. Who knew that old man would be so stubborn and take it so seriously? As he spoke, Ming Di's eyes remained indifferent, as though he didn't care at all. He didn't really care. The fact that the northern divine mountain had allied with the Styx River had already met his expectations. In a few days, Shui Yang promised to send his clone to the river Styx. He'd achieved his goal. Whether Shui Yang was angry or not, it had nothing to do with him. Yi Zichen didn't want to say anything about this great emperor's irresponsibility. If Emperor Hades has nothing else to say, then this junior will take his leave. Go. But for now, it's best if you stay at the foot of the mountain. That way, it'll be more convenient for you to retrieve the Xianyuan sword. You don't even need to say that. Yi Zichen muttered to himself. The Xianyuan sword was in Emperor Hades's hands. How could he leave so easily? Junior will be waiting for you. Go ahead. When the time comes to retrieve the Xianyuan sword, I'll resurrect the young man called Qin Guangfa as well. This junior will take his leave. Emperor Hades chuckled as he watched Yi Zichen leave. His gaze gradually darkened. Iyun, while I was in seclusion, did any of the vicious beasts or divine souls fail to carry out your orders? Yes. Su Yun nodded. Let's go. I'll help you take care of them. These guys have been quiet for too long. They really think they're the masters of this place. After leaving the river Styx, Yi Zichen headed straight for Raging Flame City. The Parliament of Stars and Upheaval had merged a year ago. He knew about this, and their headquarters were both located in Raging Flame City. Yi Zichen got a basic understanding of the gang's situation from Wei Jie and the others, then let them go about their own business. What did you come to the lower lands for? Ever since Yi Zichen and Zhua Mo had broken through that layer of ambiguity between them, they no longer held back. Zhua Mo walked up to Yi Zichen in her chiffon dress, then sat down on his lap. Yi Zichen pressed his lips into a smile and picked up the fruit. I went to the river Styx. A friend of mine died on the Divine Mountains, so I asked Emperor Hades to bring him back to life. The dead can come back to life? Asked Zhua Mo in surprise. Yi Zichen nodded, then couldn't help but ask. How's our information network going? And how's our trade association going? Although our trade association was established relatively late, Upheaval is powerful, so the other families have to give us face. We've monopolized over 80% of the businesses in the lower land. Zhua Mo smiled, but Yi Zichen was well aware that the trade association's current predicament had a lot to do with Zhua Mo's methods. If it weren't for Upheaval, It would have been very difficult for them to shake the Skyspan Trading Company's position in the lower lands. After giving Yi Zichen a rough overview of the trade association situation, Zhuo continued. We've established an information network. Right now, the entire lower lands are covered by our network. Only the northern Divine Mountain isn't covered yet, but we should be able to in a few days. As for equipment, I set up a factory the moment you returned from the lower lands. Before long, the first batch of equipment should be ready. Yi Zichen hadn't expected things to progress so quickly. It seemed having a good wife really saved him a lot of trouble. Now, all he had to do was wait for the first batch of equipment to be ready. Once that was done, all he had to do was promote it, and cell phones would become commonplace on the Divine Mountains, as well as in the Yao and Demon realms. Furthermore, Yi Zichen had Emperor Hades's connections. He could ask him to pull the great emperors into the group. If he could foster their bad habit of sending red packets, then he could hide in the group and wait to snatch them up. Wouldn't that be wonderful? That's right, said Zhuo, but as the trade association develops, we need to establish an information network as well. We need to know what's going on in the lower lands, how many Yaoan demons have arrived, and when they've arrived. I want to know everything. That's simple. We just need to recruit a few intelligence agents from our various branches and merchant group. Zhuo nodded. I trust you to take care of things. He gently patted her on the waist. At that moment, Yi Zichen's phone buzzed again. If he wasn't mistaken, it was definitely the people from the Red Packet Group. He pulled out his phone, opened his social media app, and saw the first message. However, when he saw the message, he was stunned. It wasn't that the message was too shocking, but that the sender was. Chapter 1254. Shard of the Divine Mausoleum Key. How could it be him? Countless memories surfaced in Yi Zichen's mind as he looked at Tai Bai Jingxing's message on social media. He was able to enter the Heavenly Court group because Tai Bai Jingxing pulled him in. Although Gu Zichen had played a part, he was still the first immortal Yi Zichen had seen in the group. After Tai Bai Jingxing had a grudge with the Jade Emperor, Tai Bai Jingxing left the group. Pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li inherited the position of Chief Steward. After that, the two of them didn't talk much before disappearing. Today, this old immortal who had gone into seclusion had come out again. He even sent Yi Zichen a message. Little friend Yi, how have you been? Yi Zichen looked at the message on the screen, then signaled Zhuo with his eyes. After she left his lap, he sent a reply. Great Immortal Tai Bai. It's me. Tai Bai Jingxing quickly replied. The Sacred Mountain suddenly has an information network. You're the only one I can think of who can do this. You flatter me. Yi Zichen replied modestly, but based on his information, he could tell that this great immortal was on the Divine Mountains. No wonder I haven't seen him for so long. It turns out that he has come to the God Realm. Great Immortal, which Divine Mountain are you on? The Northwest Divine Mountain, Tai Bai Jingxing replied instantly. I never would have imagined that you'd actually come to the Divine Mountain after 100 years. Come to think of it, I haven't seen those old fellows for almost 100 years. I do miss them. How about I add you to the group? Could it be that we can still communicate with the people below? Of course. Yi Zichen gave a definite answer, then directly pulled Tai Bai Jingxing in without thinking too much about it. Only Idealism also invited Tai Bai Jingxing into the Red Envelope server. Originally, everyone in the group was chatting happily, but the moment Yi Zichen added Tai Bai Jingxing into the group, the entire group turned silent. God of Thunder, am I seeing things? God of Fortune, I think I saw it too. Bai Hua Fairy. Did Emperor Yi just invite Great Deity Tai Bai? Immortality Peach Fairy. I just confirmed it, and it seems to be true. There was a lot of discussion in the group. Yu Lao directly Tai Bai Jingxing. Yu Lao, Tai Bai Jingxing, old man, is that you? Tai Bai Jingxing, old friends, long time no see. The group exploded. Ever since Tai Bai Jingxing left the Heavenly Courts group, they had never seen each other again. Now that Tai Bai Jinxing was back in the limelight, how could these immortals not be excited? Mother of Lightning, great deity Tai Bai, we miss you so much. Wu Gang, it's good that you're back. Yu Lao, it really is you, old man. The great immortals of the heavenly court were all wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves in the group. Some small immortals also ran out to get a look. The ghost generals and Yama kings of the underworld also ran out to welcome them. It was so lively. Barefoot immortal, Tai Bai Jinxing, even if we miss you, you can't break the rules. If you enter the group to give out red packets, we won't be willing to accept it. The Immortality Peach Fairy also joined in Send Red Packets. Send red packets. Almost as soon as Barefoot Immortal said that, a red packet appeared on the screen. Yi Zichen, who was looking at the messages in the group, also clicked on the red packet. Key fragment of the Tomb of the God of Sin X1. Yi Zichen was stunned for a moment when he saw the message on the red packet. What the hell was a key fragment of the Divine Mausoleum? Yi Zichen clicked open his treasure chest in a practiced manner, and opened it once more. The treasures he'd snatched from the group were still there, as well as the marriage strings he'd tied to Su Yen and the others. The last of the treasures was a 5th-grade jade slip. Key fragment of the Divine Mausoleum. During the Great War of Gods and Demons, the gods, with the help of the Yao, narrowly defeated the demons. 10,000 years after the Great War, the God Emperor's old wounds couldn't heal and he perished. The Minister of the Left and the Lord of the Right used their 3 souls as the foundation to construct the God Emperor's mausoleum, then left behind a key fragment that was scattered throughout the upper 3 realms for the fated to inherit. When he saw the description, Yi Zichen couldn't help but gulp. Just now, he'd casually snatched up such a precious treasure. More importantly, where had Tai Bai Jinxing gotten his hands on a key fragment of the Divine Mausoleum? When Yi Zichen returned to the group, everyone was in a frenzy of ridicule. God of Thunder, Tai Bai, that's not right of you. How could you send out a red packet and then take it back? Mother of Lightning, fortunately I snatched it fast enough. Barefoot Immortal, why did you take it back? Yu Lao, I'm afraid Tai Bai sent it by mistake? Golden Boy, Grandpa Tai Bai, you're so stingy. Jade Girl, Grandpa Tai Bai, you're so mean. Yi Zichen scrolled through the messages and discovered that Tai Bai Jinxing's red packet really had disappeared. Tai Bai Jinxing wouldn't take back red packets for no reason. He'd obviously realized he'd sent the wrong thing. Suddenly, Yi Zichen recalled the key fragment he'd snatched up. Great Immortal Tai Bai? Yi Zichen sent Tai Bai Jinxing a probing message. I'll send it back in a bit. I'm a bit busy right now, so let's talk later, replied Tai Bai Jinxing via voice message. It seemed that he was really anxious, especially when his tone was mixed with seriousness. You sent it to the wrong person, didn't you? Replied Yi Zichen. How do you know? Tai Bai Jinxing's tone was somewhat suspicious. Did you steal it? Then what did you send? If it's important, we can ask for it back in the group chat. A triangular piece of jade. By now, Yi Zichen was at least 80% certain that Tai Bai Jinxing was worried about the key fragment. When he saw how anxious he was, Yi Zichen couldn't help but reply. It's with me. It's with you. Tai Bai Jinxing sent a message, followed by a bunch of astonished emojis. Yi Zichen, the key fragment, right? I stole it. Tai Bai Jinxing, right, since you stole it, hurry up and give it back to me. Yi Zichen, why? Tai Bai Jinxing, it's mine. Yi Zichen, but I stole it. After a while, Tai Bai Jinxing didn't reply. If you want to go back, that's fine. Can you tell me where you got this key fragment from? Yi Zichen sent the message. Why would I tell you? Said Tai Bai Jinxing. Then I won't give it back to you, said Yi Zichen. Tai Bai Jinxing didn't reply again. After a while, Tai Bai Jinxing seemed impatient. Another message popped up on his screen. You have no use for the fragment, so give it back to me. What do you want? So long as I have it, I'll give it to you, alright? Then tell me what it's used for. It's used to open the North Star Emperor's tomb. What? Can you still use it? Tai Jinxing seemed a little angry. Hurry up and give it back. What's the point of keeping it? Chapter 1255. Tai Jinxing comes to his door far away on the northwest Divine Mountain. Tai Jinxing stared blankly at the news on his cell phone. After a full 10 seconds of silence, he clenched his phone and sent out a video window. The key fragment of the god of Mausoleum. He had a fragment of the key to the tomb of the god of sin in the demon-subduing tower, and now he got another one from Tai Jinxing. He just didn't know how many pieces the key was divided into and when he would be able to collect them all. So long as he gathered all the keys, Yi Zichen was certain that once he inherited the North Star Emperor's legacy, no one in the entire god realm would be able to stop him. He hummed a tune as he exited the app. Before he could put his phone back into his pocket, Tai Jinxing's video came. This old man was definitely here for the key fragment of the tomb of the god of sin, but he had snatched it with his own ability, so why should he give it to him? Rejected. After rejecting the video call, Yi Zichen directly chucked his phone to the side. He actually refused. Tai Jinxing was so angry that he stomped his feet. He was even more furious as he held onto his phone. Not long after, a 2-meter-tall man ran into the thatched hut. "Sir, are you all right?" His arms kept shaking. Tai Jinxing ignored the man and sent out another video message. Buzz buzz buzz, Zhuomo's phone vibrated nonstop. When she saw it, she pouted at Yi Zichen. "Don't worry about it." Yi Zichen's phone rang for nearly an hour, causing him to truly admire Tai Jinxing's persistence. "Are we really going to ignore it?" Zhuomo couldn't help but ask as she stared at her phone, which was still buzzing on the table. Fortunately, the phone on the table finally quieted down after ringing for a few more minutes. Yi Zichen also let out a sigh of relief. If it continued like this, then he really wanted to take over the video call. "I'm going to go into seclusion." Yi Zichen glanced at Zhuomo leave the phone outside. "If it still rings, let it ring. I've just condensed the Supreme Body, so I have to finish it as soon as possible. If there's nothing important, don't disturb me. Also, get the first batch of equipment out as soon as possible. It's quite urgent." "No problem." Zhuomo nodded. Yi Zichen glanced at his phone, then sank into the depths of the Yao ceiling pagoda. This is infuriating. Inside the thatched hut, Tai Jinxing gritted his teeth as he looked at the notification that the call had not been connected. He almost had the urge to smash this broken phone. However, this phone was now out of print. If he threw it away, it would be difficult for him to contact his old buddies in the future. "My lord." The burly man in the room looked worried. Tai Jinxing took a few deep breaths, placed his phone on the table, and closed his eyes. A blue divine formation suddenly appeared behind him, and blue light shone from the center of his eyebrows. The northern Divine Mountain's raging flame city. Not long after, Tai Jinxing opened his eyes again and muttered to himself. Immediately after, a faint smile appeared on his face, as if he was angry yet not angry. "Go tell the people of the Western Jade Pool that I'm going down the mountain." Yes. The headquarters of Raging Flame City. Yi Zichen had already been in seclusion for half a month. During this time, Go Yuzhan and the others from the Parliament of Stars had come to visit, but Yi Zichen was still in seclusion, so they hadn't met. During this time, Yi Zichen had remained within the Yao ceiling pagoda the entire time. His soul was practically completely submerged within his Dharma body. In the beginning, he'd used divine-grade materials to construct the Dharma body's framework. Now that he'd absorbed it into his body, he'd nourished it with his soul and divine power. Yi Zichen looked at his Dharma body, which was still less than half complete. He was speechless. Now he knew why, when Emperor Hades said he'd broken the Xianyuan sword's seal, he'd assumed he'd become a diviner, but in the end, he'd only become a sixth-layer Sky Supreme. That was because the Dharma body had devoured more than 40% of his divine power. The Dharma body was like a bottomless pit. The amount of divine power Yi Zichen absorbed on a daily basis was barely enough to keep up with the Dharma body's absorption. If he wanted to speed up the process of fusing with the Dharma body, he'd have no choice but to keep eating pills filled with divine power. If I keep eating like this, I won't be able to afford it even with the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. Yi Zichen tossed the last bottle of pills into his mouth. As soon as the divine power entered his body, the Dharma body opened its mouth wide and sucked it all in. However, this divine power was enough to raise a Sky Supreme's cultivation by a level, but in the end, it was only 1/100th of the Dharma body's fusion. Screw off. Go grow on your own. When he saw how weak the fusion was, Yi Zichen couldn't help but be furious. High investment, high return. He'd always believed this. Based on the expensive materials required to create the Dharma body, he knew it would be extraordinary in the future. Now it needed even more divine power, and it was as bottomless as a bottomless pit. A Dharma body was only valuable if it could be used. He'd gone through untold hardships to finally create it, but he couldn't use it anytime soon. However, he wouldn't be able to use it for the time being. This was no different from not getting anything in return. Yi Zichen angrily rose to his feet. He'd already worn down the Dharma body's patience. If he continued to confront this Dharma body, he was afraid that he would directly explode and destroy this Dharma body. He calculated the time and realized he'd been here for half a month. Who knew? There might even be news from the Xianyuan sword by now. Your Excellency. As soon as he stepped out of the secret room, the Yao in the Yao Ceiling Pagoda greeted him. Yi Zichen nodded at them, then left the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. As soon as he left the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, Zuomo walked in. Zichen, someone's looking for you. Yi Zichen picked up the phone on the table and looked at the message. There wasn't anything particularly noteworthy. Most of the messages were just the deities squabbling. There were also some private messages from people on the Divine Mountains, saying they should meet up when they had time. Looking for me? Who's looking for me? Yi Zichen arched his brows and asked. I don't know them either. Zuomo pursed her lips. They showed up not long after you went into seclusion. I told them you were in seclusion, but they said they could wait. Did you ask who they were? I did, but they wouldn't tell me. From the looks of it, they didn't come with good intentions. I was worried they'd cause trouble, so I called Leijin over. Leijin said he might not be a match for them either. So, I've been keeping them in check, waiting for you to come out. Even Leijin said he wasn't a match for them. He was the leader of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda's first floor, a 9th stage Earth Supreme Divine Beast. The lower lands were filled with immortal kings and sky immortals. Was there anyone he couldn't handle? The only possibility was that they'd come from the Divine Mountains. Let's go take a look. Yi Zichen knit his brows, then followed Zuomo to Upheaval's reception hall. There was an old man with a long white beard sitting in the reception hall, and beside him stood a tall and sturdy man who looked meticulous. As soon as he entered, Yi Zichen's pupils constricted, and he tried to run. Chapter 1256. Demand. Yi Zichen, who was just about to flee, stopped, then laughed heartily as he walked in. You're right, Yi Zichen said with a smile that wasn't quite a smile. Great immortal Tai Bai, long time no see. You look just as good as before. Yi Zichen reached out and grabbed Tai Bai Jinxing's hand. Tai Bai Jinxing chuckled. Little friend Yi, when did you learn to read faces? You can even tell that I look good? Is there even a need to look? Judging by your rosy cheeks, you must be in great shape. He sat down across from Tai Bai Jinxing, then grinned at Zuomo. Go prepare some fruits and immortal wine. Zuomo's eyes were filled with worry. She sent him a strand of divine sense. Who exactly are they? We're friends, but I can't explain everything to you in a short time. Just go prepare. Yi Zichen gave her a reassuring look. After Zuomo left, he grinned. Great immortal, we haven't seen each other in a while, have we? Why did you run all the way here? Even if we're going to meet, I should be the one going to you. Right now, you should be wondering how that old geezer found me, said Tai Bai jinxing. Look at what you're saying. Yi Zichen smiled vaguely, but inwardly, he muttered to himself. The old geezer really had guessed correctly. The god realm was vast, but he'd been on the divine mountains while Yi Zichen was in the lower lands. How had he found his way here? Yi Zichen didn't understand. Could it be that his phone had a GPS? Now you're wondering if your phone has a GPS? Asked Tai Bai jinxing. Yi Zichen looked at the smiling Tai Bai jinxing and sighed. It's been so long since we last met. You must have gone off to learn fortune-telling. Tai Bai jinxing didn't deny it. He simply looked at Yi Zichen in amusement. When Yi Zichen saw his smile, he couldn't help but panic. Out with it. What are you here for? Yi Zichen couldn't be bothered to argue with Tai Bai jinxing. He crossed his legs, took a cigarette out of his pocket, and put it to his lip. He inhaled deeply, then exhaled a cloud of smoke. In the heavenly court, Tai Bai jinxing was a heavy smoker. When he saw that Yi Zichen actually had a cigarette in his hand, his heart itched a bit. Want one? Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows, then flicked a cigarette into his hand. Catching the cigarette, Tai Bai jinxing lit it up skillfully. My purpose here is very simple. Give me back the key fragment of the tomb of the god of sin. Is there a need to travel so far just for a key fragment? Did you descend from the divine mountains? Yi Zichen was speechless. I don't know either, but little friend Yi hasn't been contacting me. You didn't pick up my video call either. I really have no other choice, that's why I came up with this plan. Tai Bai jinxing said. Really? Yi Zichen was completely shocked. He took out his phone and pretended to look at it. Oh, you really sent it. I'm really sorry. After I sent that message, I went into seclusion and didn't notice the video you sent. Seclusion? He had clearly rejected the first video message at the very beginning, and then pretended that he wasn't there. Tai Bai jinxing didn't point it out. This was something that the two of them had a tacit understanding about. His purpose in coming here was not to haggle over these things. What he wanted was the fragment. Then, little friend Yi, could you? That's impossible. Yi Zichen cut Tai Bai jinxing off. According to the rules of our red packet group, once you send it out, you can't take it back. I snatched it based on my own ability. Why should I give it back to you? Besides, so many people tried to snatch it, but the fragment just had to come to me. Great Immortal, don't you think it's just fate that brought me here? How can you speak to His Excellency Tai Bai like that? The tall and sturdy man standing behind Tai Bai jinxing took a step forward with a bang. This step caused the ground to crack, and the whole house to shake a few times with his step. His aura was like that of a ferocious beast in the mortal world. Even though Yi Zichen was a Sky Supreme expert, he felt a chill run down his spine. He was a 9th stage Sky Supreme at the very least, perhaps even a diviner. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes as he gave the man a definition of his cultivation level. It seemed this geezer Tai Bai really had come with ill intentions. Great Immortal Tai Bai this. Tai Bai jinxing glanced at the brawny man, then smiled elegantly. Little friend Yi, please don't misunderstand. I had no intention of attacking. With that, he turned and glared at the brawny man. Who told you to do that? It wasn't you. The man clearly wasn't smart enough to understand what was going on. He explained it to Tai Bai jinxing with an aggrieved expression. Tai Bai jinxing's expression instantly froze. Stand properly. I didn't tell you to speak. The brawny man retreated in an aggrieved manner. Tai Bai jinxing was clearly embarrassed. Little friend Yi, please don't misunderstand. I didn't tell him to do that. As he explained, he glared at the brawny man, causing the man's expression to grow even more aggrieved. It's fine. Zuomo nodded and smiled. At that moment, she brought over some fruits and wine. When she saw the cracks in the ground, she subconsciously glanced at Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen shook his head at her, indicating for her to leave. Then, Tai Bai jinxing spoke. Little friend Yi, We've known each other for quite some time now. You should know what kind of person I am. The fact that I'm here means that the key fragment really is important. I know. The god's mausoleum held the god emperor's grave. Everyone knew how important the key fragment was. Then why can't you just give it back to me? Asked Tai Bai Jinxing helplessly. What do you want it for? The one buried in the god's mausoleum is the North Star God Emperor. Only the person who manifested the North Star can receive his inheritance. Could it be you? You know all about it. When he heard this, Tai Bai Jinxing froze despite himself, then shook his head. Of course I'm not the one who manifested the North Star. Then what do you want it for? But I know who it is, and that person has already contacted me. As soon as Tai Bai Jinxing said that, Yi Zichen laughed. The true person who manifested the Emperor's star was sitting right here, yet Tai Bai Jinxing said someone had contacted him? What a joke. No. Suddenly, Yi Zichen recalled that the heavens had chosen 2 emperors to manifest the Emperor's star, and that the 5 elements Great Emperor and Zhou Wu had manifested the Emperor's star as well. However, Zhou Wu was now the God Emperor, so he shouldn't have any particular interest in the god's mausoleum. Do you think the person who contacted you was Guli? Yi Zichen eliminated all possibilities, then probed tentatively. To his surprise, Tai Bai Jinxing's pupils constricted. How do you know? It was him. He came looking for me and said he was the one who manifested the Emperor's star. Chapter 1257. Don't regret, Yi Zichen asked before Tai Bai Jinxing could respond. Do you know who Guli is? Yi Zichen's 2 rhetorical questions left Tai Bai Jinxing stumped. He was certain that these 2 questions weren't simple at all. Tai Bai Jinxing's expression inexplicably became solemn. Little friend Yi, what exactly are you trying to say? You once said that you hate demons the most, right? Yi Zichen looked into Tai Bai Jinxing's eyes. Tai Bai Jinxing nodded in response. The demon race was definitely his greatest enemy in this lifetime. His family had all died at their hand. Even if he had to spend the rest of his life fighting them, he would fight them to the end. Back then, he'd fallen out with the Jade Emperor precisely because the Jade Emperor hadn't agreed to send troops against the demons. That was why he'd resigned from his position as chief steward of the Heavenly Court and left the Heavenly Court. Then why do you still want to give the fragment to Guli? Tai Bai Jinxing's eyes instantly widened as if he'd just experienced something terrifying. If he still didn't understand what Yi Zichen was trying to say, then what difference was there between him and the burly man? You said he. Yi Zichen nodded. The shock in Tai Bai Jinxing's eyes grew even more obvious, but he quickly shook his head. That's impossible. If he's a demon, he definitely has demonic energy. Even if he wanted to hide it, it was impossible for him to do so in front of me. I don't sense any demonic energy from him at all. He can't be a demon, said Tai Bai Jinxing in disbelief. When you put it like that, I really don't know what to say. Yi Zichen shrugged, then leaned back in his chair with a wry smile. You should know that I'm the reincarnation of the Yellow Emperor. This Guli is the reincarnation of Chiyu. He's a demon. Whether it's the modern realm where I live or the lower 3 realms where you're in the Heavenly Court, he's the one in charge of the demon invasion. I once had a chance to kill him, but in the end a demon saved me. Tai Bai Jinxing felt like he was listening to a heavenly book. Despite his shock, he still didn't quite believe it. He glanced at the burly man, who frowned and shook his head. No, if he really is a demon, he wouldn't be able to enter the Western Jade Pool. Little friend Yi, don't tell me you deliberately made this up because you want to get the key fragment. Tai Bai Jinxing chuckled. Yi Zichen's expression instantly froze. The invasion of the devil race was something that he didn't want to mention. He only mentioned it here because he didn't want Tai Bai Jinxing to risk his life for his enemies. But now it was all lies and fabrications, forget it. If you don't believe me, I won't bother to explain it to you. With that, Yi Zichen took out his phone, clicked on his chat with Tai Bai Jinxing, and sent him a red packet. Ding dong. Tai-Bai Jinxing's phone rang. He took out his phone and saw the red packet on the screen. I've returned the key fragment to you. If you want to give it to Gu Li, then give it to him. I have no right to interfere. I just hope that in the end you won't regret your actions. He received the red envelope and found that it was indeed a fragment of the key to the tomb of the god of sin. This sudden change caused Tai-Bai Jinxing to frown. He did not immediately put away the key fragment. Instead, he held it in his hand. Little friend Yi, you still haven't said who you are. I'm no one. Alright, you've already achieved your goal here. We walk different paths, so let's go. Tai-Bai Jinxing coldly pointed at the door, still somewhat hesitant. Mo, see our guest out. Before long, Zhou Mo appeared in the main hall. She smiled at Tai-Bai Jinxing and gestured for him to leave. Things had already gotten to this point. Tai-Bai Jinxing couldn't just stick around. He nodded and smiled at Zhou Mo, then rose to his feet. Let's meet again in the future. No need. Yi Zichen didn't even look at him. Tai-Bai Jinxing smiled sheepishly, but said nothing else. He left the main hall. You're getting more and more muddle-headed. As he watched Tai-Bai Jinxing leave, Yi Zichen narrowed his eyes and snorted. Tai-Bai Jinxing, who just left upheaval and reclaimed the key fragment, didn't seem particularly happy. His expression darkened as he glanced at the guest hall behind him. He clutched the key fragment in his hand. Yi Zichen's words echoed through his mind. Who do you think he is? He's a demon. Do you know who I am? I can't be bothered to explain it to you. I'll return the key fragment to you. Don't regret it. Yi Zichen's words buzzed in his ears like a monk chanting sutras. Could it be that everything Yi Zichen said was true? Tai-Bai Jinxing's gaze was dark. At that moment, a ray of starlight streaked through the sky and landed in front of Tai-Bai Jinxing. The two of them stopped in their tracks. When they saw who it was, a hint of respect flashed through Tai-Bai Jinxing's eyes. Minister of the Left. The person Tai-Bai referred to as the Minister of the Left wasn't Yin Shang. He was in his 30s, and his skin was similar to a normal human's. His pitch-black eyes seemed to be branded with a star chart. He clasped his hands behind his back and looked calmly at Tai-Bai Jinxing, his expression indescribably aloof. Tai-Bai Jinxing, said the middle-aged man. Minister of the Left, how did you find the time to come here? Asked Tai-Bai Jinxing in astonishment. I've come to retrieve the key fragment, said the fake Minister of the Left. When he heard that the middle-aged man had come for the key fragment, Tai-Bai Jinxing's expression visibly stiffened. However, he quickly recovered and smiled at the fake Minister of the Left. North Pole Emperor Star, didn't Gu Li say he'd come back next month to retrieve it? The situation has changed. While in seclusion, he made a breakthrough in his comprehension of the Milky Way. He vaguely found the location of the god's mausoleum. He needs the key fragment to confirm whether or not it really is the God Emperor's tomb. His Excellency found the god's mausoleum? Tai-Bai Jinxing was astonished. Of course. His Excellency is the master of the North Pole Emperor Star's image. The Emperor's star will naturally guide him. What's so strange about finding the god's mausoleum? We need your key fragment right now. Sky Sovereign Tai-Bai, don't tell me you don't want to give it to me? Tai-Bai Jinxing was still somewhat hesitant, but he was more than willing to believe the fake Minister of the Left's words. The Western Jade Lake was extremely sensitive to demonic energy. If even it hadn't sensed Gu Li's demonic energy, then he naturally didn't. Besides, he had the Minister of the Left by his side. It was definitely the Emperor's star. Chapter 1258. True and false, of course. The Minister of the Left quickly put away the key fragment. His eyes flashed with a smile. I'll go back and give it to His Excellency Gu Li. Please, Supreme White Supremacy, keep an eye out for it. If you find it, contact us as soon as possible. Starlight flashed, and azure light streaked across the sky. However, the Minister of the Left had been paying close attention to Tai-Bai Jinxing and the others' movements. Once he was sure they couldn't see each other, He found a secluded spot and stopped. His previously human-like appearance suddenly transformed into a horned, unruly man with pitch-black skin. A demon. The person Tai-Bai Jinxing had mistaken for the minister of the left was, shockingly, a demon. However, there was no miasma around him at all. If you ignored his appearance and relied solely on his aura, he really was no different from a human. Gu Li's pretty good at research. To think he'd come up with something like this. That foolish old hat really did scare him. He twisted his neck and hovered in the sky. Then he placed his fingers to his pupils. Shockingly, he was holding a pair of spectacles that looked like contact lenses. With a ruthless smile on his face, the space around the demon race expert's finger twisted. The pair of contact lenses also shattered into powder under the distorted space, disappearing along with the wind. His aura concealment technique is excellent. I'm afraid that old geezer has the strength of a half-step ruler, yet he still couldn't recognize my aura. He could only maintain it for a short time, but his research direction is correct. It seems that as long as we continue working in this direction, the demons will be able to sneak into the human territory without anyone noticing. Exterminate the demons and show off the human race's might? Tui. The demon expert spat viciously, then snapped his fingers. A door filled with miasma appeared in the sky. Time to go home. He stretched lazily and stepped through the door. Just as he was about to step through it, the door vanished from the sky. Tai-Bai Jinxing remained in Raging Flame City. He maintained a respectful expression as he bowed in the direction the demon expert had left. After a while, the burly man cracked his neck. Your Excellency, I sense that there's something wrong with the minister of the left. Although the burly man's brain was not very good, his intuition was much sharper than that of ordinary people. When the minister of the left obtained the key fragment of the tomb of the god of sin, he clearly sensed a flash of excitement and disdain in the minister of the left's eyes. More importantly, how did the minister of the left know they were here? The minister of the left commanded the Milky Way, but they were not the Emperor Star's auxiliary stars, nor were they the fated stars. The only possibility was that the minister of the left had been monitoring them all this time. The reason for monitoring them should be the fragment of the tomb of the god of sin in their hands. There is a problem. Tai-Bai Jinxing lightly nodded his head and took out a fragment from his hand. This fragment was the fragment of the key to the tomb of the god of sin. When the burly man saw the fragment, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. The one you gave him was fake? Tai-Bai Jinxing nodded. That's strange. We just got the fragment from Yizichin, and now he says Gu Li found the divine tomb's location? But it's fine if we find it, but what we have here is only a fragment. He actually said that he wanted to use this fragment to determine whether this is the real tomb of the god of sin. This is a big problem. The burly man couldn't help but nod. To tell the truth, Tai-Bai Jinxing still believed that Gu Li was the Emperor Star. However, the minister of the left's behavior seemed a bit strange. He couldn't give him the key fragment just yet. He needed to go back and carefully verify their true identity. If Gu Li really was the Emperor Star, then it wouldn't be too late to give him the real fragment. If his vigilance really did delay Gu Li's progress, he was willing to take responsibility. In truth, part of the reason Tai-Bai Jinxing was acting like this was because Yi Zichen's earlier words had truly shaken him. His expression didn't seem fake, especially when he asked if Yi Zichen was lying to him. That wasn't anger at having his lies exposed. Rather, it came from the depths of his heart. And what he said, who was he? All of this was worth Tai-Bai Jinxing investigating further. After seeing Tai-Bai Jinxing off, Zhuo appeared in the reception hall. Yi Zichen sat in a chair, a cigarette dangling from his lips. Quite a few burned cigarette butts littered the room, filling it with smoke. You're here. He snuffed out his cigarette, activated his divine power, and the smoke dissipated. They left. Zhuo nodded. Who were those two just now? Yi Zichen's eyes flashed with disdain. Yi Zichen's eyes flashed with mockery. He wanted to light another one, but when he remembered that Swa Mo was there, he could only give up. You're crazy! He didn't want to discuss this matter any further, but his heart was incomparably solemn. Guli still hadn't changed his mind. He still wanted to obtain the God Emperor's legacy. Furthermore, he'd sought out Tai Bai Jinxing of his own accord, making it so that Tai Bai Jinxing couldn't detect that he was a demon. Yi Zichen didn't want to think too much about this sort of aura concealing technique. But how did he know Tai Bai Jinxing had the key fragment? How did he find out and contact him? Was it possible that something had gone wrong with Tai Bai Jinxing? Yi Zichen gently tapped his fingers on the table. At that moment, he received a divine sense transmission in his sea of consciousness. Then, he stood up from his chair. I'm going to the river Styx. When he arrived at the river Styx, Su Yun was already waiting for him. You called me over. Does that mean you can give me the Xianyuan sword now? Yes. Su Yun nodded. Yi Zichen's eyes blazed with passion. The Xianyuan sword was the #1 divine artifact of the primordial era. Not even the Eastern Emperor Tai's bell could compare to it. Just how powerful would a divine artifact like that be? Would they know that even sovereigns would be nothing in front of him? Of course, that was just Yi Zichen's imagination running wild. Rulers were already the strongest existences here. If he could kill them with just the Xianyuan sword, why would he bother raising his cultivation? All he had to do was fight for the Xianyuan sword. But even if he couldn't kill a ruler, with the Xianyuan sword by his side, Yi Zichen's combat strength would increase exponentially. Then what are you standing around for? Hurry up and go down. Of course I can, but you need to be mentally prepared. Su Yun patted Yi Zichen on the shoulder. Great Emperor Shuiyang is here. Yi Zichen's expression froze. Emperor Hades had messed things up between him and Great Emperor Shuiyang. Fine, fine. I'm here for the Xianyuan sword. Besides, I'm not really going to become his son-in-law. Even if I really am, he's still my father-in-law. What can he do to me? Chapter 1259. Chapter 1259. The complete Xianyuan sword. Half a month later, Yi Zichen arrived at the river Styx. As soon as he set foot in the river, he sensed 2 auras lock onto him. The probing auras were fleeting, but Yi Zichen discovered that the defenses were even tighter than before. Countless sharkmen and Yao wielded weapons as they swam through the waters. The river Styx was on high alert, as if it were the eve of a great war. Yi Zichen couldn't help but worry about humanity's future. The demons watched hungrily from afar, and the Yao could cross the river Styx at any moment. If the river Styx collapsed, the armies of the Yao and demon realms would be able to march straight in. Trapped between the 2 realms, the human race would be under attack from both sides. Another thing that caught Yi Zichen's attention was that he hadn't sensed any of the domineering auras he'd sensed before. Master, Yi Zichen's here. Su Yun entered Emperor Hades' secondary palace and bowed. Before long, Emperor Hades and Great Emperor Shuiyang walked out, shoulder to shoulder. When he saw Yi Zichen, Shuiyang clearly glared at him. Yi Zichen sighed helplessly, then bowed to the 2 emperors. Emperor Hades, Great Emperor Shuiyang. Great Emperor Shuiyang didn't even look up, but Emperor Hades smiled warmly and pointed at a chair. Sit. There's no need for that. I'm here to retrieve the Xianyuan sword, then return to the Divine Mountains with Guangfa. Besides, it seems you don't particularly welcome me here. He glanced at Shuiyang, who knew Yi Zichen was referring to him. He narrowed his eyes and glanced back. Instantly, Yi Zichen felt as if a bolt of lightning had struck his sea of consciousness. His face paled. His entire body was sweating profusely. Shuiyang, you've gone too far, said Emperor Hades in a low voice. This kind of junior, it's because you've spoiled him too much that he doesn't understand etiquette. This emperor is merely teaching him what he should say and what he shouldn't say when facing seniors in the future, and that he should know his place. Shui Yang's expression was icy, his gaze somewhat unfriendly. Yi Zichen could still feel the stabbing pain in his sea of consciousness, but at that moment, he looked up, his eyes filled with unwillingness to admit defeat. He gnashed his teeth and bent down. "Thank you for your teachings, Senior." Shui Yang's expression was as cold as ever. Emperor Hades couldn't help but shake his head, then tossed out a bottle of pills. "Eat this. The Sea of Wisdom is the foundation of us cultivators. Leaving it damaged will not do you any good." That was why Emperor Hades was so angry at Shui Yang. Emperor Hades didn't have a problem with Shui Yang. He could suppress Shui Yang with his aura. Emperor Hades wouldn't say anything even if Shui Yang hit him. But just now, Shui Yang had touched Yi Zichen's sea of consciousness. That was a cultivator's weakest and most important part. Yi Zichen was only a sky supreme, but Shui Yang was a ruler. The slightest mistake could destroy Yi Zichen's sea of consciousness and turn him into a cripple. Yi Zichen understood the importance of the sea of consciousness. Without hesitation, he poured the pill into his hand and swallowed it. As soon as the pill entered his mouth, its medicinal strength transformed into strands that flowed into his sea of consciousness, repairing all the damage. "Thank you, Senior Emperor Hades, for the medicine." "It's no problem." Emperor Hades nodded, then said, "I'm sure you know why I called you here. I wanted to give you the Xianyuan sword." With that, a bewitching woman walked out from the back of the hall. She wore a light blue dress, and her figure was tall and lithe. Her skin was as white as snow, and she wore a silver necklace around her neck. She had a high nose bridge, and her eyes were pitch black like black gemstones. Between her willowy eyebrows was the brand of a sword. This brand revealed her identity. She was the sword spirit. She gripped a long sword in her right hand. It was 70 long and 12 wide. 2 dragons coiled around the hilt, and they seemed to be roaring. The Xianyuan sword. This was the Xianyuan sword, after its seal was completely broken. The person holding it was, shockingly, Xianyuan Xiang. When she appeared, Emperor Hades's eyes flashed with faint nostalgia, and a warm smile tugged at his lips. When Shui Yang saw her, he froze despite himself. He instinctively glanced at Emperor Hades. Big Sister Xiang. When he saw Xianyuan Xiang, Yi Zichen's eyes lit up with delight. Xianyuan Xiang ran up to him, but because she was wearing a dress, she couldn't take too big of a stride. After just a few steps, she frowned. Yi Zichen ran up to her. "Big Sister Xiang, why are you wearing a dress?" As far as Yi Zichen could remember, Xianyuan Xiang had practically never worn a dress before. But to be honest, she looked quite feminine when she wore it. "Do you think I want to wear it?" Xianyuan Xiang rolled her eyes at Ming Di. "That's him. He insisted on making me wear this. It's so uncomfortable." Golden light shimmered around her, and she transformed into a warrior's outfit similar to the one she'd worn before. "It's still more comfortable like this." When Emperor Hades saw this, he couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. When Yi Zichen heard this, his expression turned somewhat odd. Emperor Hades made Xianyuan Xiang wear it like this? No way. As soon as the thought crossed his mind, Yi Zichen couldn't help but sigh in amazement. The #1 emperor of all time, Emperor Hades, who had intimidated the entire Yao realm with the river stick. Could it be that he'd really taken a fancy to the Xianyuan sword's artifact spirit? Yi Zichen gasped inwardly, arched his brows, smiled, and handed the sword to Yi Zichen. "Give it a try." Yi Zichen wanted to see just how strong the Xianyuan sword was. He accepted the sword. As soon as it touched his hands, he sensed a bloodline connection with the sword. It was a piece of cake for him. Furthermore, as he gripped the hilt, he could faintly hear the roar of an azure dragon in his ears. The surging power flowed through the Xianyuan sword into his arm. This kind of surging power made him feel uncomfortable. Boom! He swung the sword viciously at the ground. So this is the complete Xianyuan sword. Yi Zichen couldn't help but sigh in amazement at the release of his power. when he turned to Emperor Hades to express his gratitude. His face was as green as steel. At that moment, he saw that he'd practically cleaved the entire palace in two. There was even a 10,000-meter deep ditch in the ground. Yi Zichen swore he hadn't done it on purpose. Senior Emperor Hades. Emperor Hades scratched his head and smiled sheepishly. He stared at him for a few seconds, his chest heaving as if trying to calm his fury. After a while, he closed his eyes and let out a long sigh. "It's fine." He said this through gritted teeth. Although the palace was nothing more than an ordinary precious artifact, one that had only just reached the divine artifact level and wasn't particularly precious, it had been with him for hundreds of thousands of years. "Thank you, Senior Emperor Hades, for your magnanimity." Yi Zichen grinned. "Then, Senior Emperor Hades, are you going to find Qin Guangfa in the river Styx? Then we'll just leave?" "Of course, but before that." Emperor Hades glanced at Shui Yang, who rose to his feet. Chapter 1260. Battle. Shui Yang. The aura that came head-on caused the entire palace to be tainted with the color of trembling. The chill seeped from the soles of his feet to his entire body. It was as if each wave was crashing against Yi Zichen's body. Even if Yi Zichen asked himself if he could remain calm even if a mountain collapsed in front of him, why did he want to say it now? "I bought a watch last year? What's going on? Defeat him? Shui Yang? A sovereign realm great emperor was on the same level as Emperor Hades? He himself, 6th stage heavenly supreme? He hasn't even condensed his sovereign celestial body? It was like an adult who loved to work out, had muscles all over his body, and wanted to smash a rock with one punch, bullying a newborn baby who hadn't even learned how to walk yet? Don't you have any shame?" Yi Zichen really wanted to point at Shui Yang's nose and ask. Su Yun was stunned as well. Yi Zichen had no chance of winning against a ruler-level expert. He subconsciously glanced at his master, Emperor Ming, only to find that he also seemed to support this idea. "Don't be afraid. This emperor isn't going to the extent of bullying a little fellow like you. When we fight, I'll suppress my cultivation to 3 levels lower than yours, which is the 3rd level of the Sky Supreme Realm. I won't use any god artifact weapons, nor will I use any battle skills above the 3rd level of the Sky Supreme Realm. As long as you can defeat me, you can take the Xianyuan sword." Even so, Yi Zichen didn't necessarily have a chance of winning. Even though Shui Yang was suppressing his cultivation, his ruler's reflexes and his millions of battles were enough to put him in an invincible position. "Master," said Suyun. He wanted Emperor Hades to speak. "This is the result of my discussion with Shui Yang." When Emperor Hades saw Yi Zichen holding the Xianyuan sword, his eyes flashed. The Xianyuan sword is not an ordinary divine weapon. More people will notice it, especially after it breaks the seal. If Yi Zichen couldn't even get past Shui Yang, who'd suppressed his cultivation, then he'd run into diviners and rulers who hadn't suppressed their cultivation. In that case, there would only be one option for him: death. Since that's the case, why not leave the Xianyuan sword in my palace? But, no buts. Emperor Hades cut him off coldly. "If you want to take the Xianyuan sword out of here, you have to pass this test." "Emperor Hades, don't go too far. I'm the artifact spirit of the Xianyuan sword. I can follow whoever I want. It's not up to you to decide whether I stay or go." Xianyuan Xiang also joined in. As they argued, Yi Zichen and Shui Yang stared at each other. He didn't look at Emperor Hades, but his ears were open. Although Emperor Hades didn't hold back, Yi Zichen knew that he was telling the truth. Shui Yang could suppress his cultivation, but those outside who wanted to steal the Xianyuan sword wouldn't be so friendly as to compete fairly with Yi Zichen. If he wanted to take the Xianyuan sword away, he'd have to get past Shui Yang. At the end of the day, he was just a Sky Supreme, and he didn't have much combat experience. His chances of defeating Shui Yang were slim. However, he could not retreat. "All right, I agree. Xianyuan Xiang, who was arguing, stopped. She glared at Yi Zichen, then reached out to touch his forehead. You don't have a fever. Why are you talking nonsense? Yi Zichen grabbed Xianyuan Xiang's hand with a smile. I'm not talking nonsense. I really do agree. Emperor Hades is right. This is something I have to go through. I agree to fight. Where do we fight? When he saw Yi Zichen grab Xianyuan Xiang, Emperor Hades couldn't help but frown. However, he still replied, right here. Suddenly, the scene within the great hall underwent an earth-shattering transformation. The glorious hall from before was gone, replaced by a verdant, vast plain with no end in sight. A few clouds drifted across the azure sky. Yi Zichen could even faintly feel a cool breeze brush against his face. Shui Yang walked up to Yi Zichen and stopped about 10 meters away. I've already suppressed my cultivation to the 3rd stage Sky Supreme level. Taking into account the substantial difference between us, you don't need to actually defeat me. So long as you can last 100 moves against me, I'll consider you qualified. Yi Zichen glanced to the side. Xianyuan Xiang narrowed her eyes and walked over, then sneered at Shui Yang. What are you so proud of? With that, the Xianyuan sword flew back into Yi Zichen's body. Teach him a good lesson. That old man really pisses me off, transmitted Xianyuan Xiang into Yi Zichen's sea of consciousness. Are you ready? Asked Shui Yang as Xianyuan Xiang merged with his sword. Yi Zichen nodded solemnly, then gripped his sword in preparation for battle. In the blink of an eye, Shui Yang vanished from sight. When he reappeared, he was already kicking Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen's sword pressed against his chest. Boundless power surged through the blade and into his body. Bang! The force sent Yi Zichen flying several hundred meters before crashing to the ground. Take it seriously. If it were anyone else, you'd be dead by now, said Shui Yang. He didn't chase after Yi Zichen. Instead, he stood in place and shouted angrily. Yi Zichen wiped the blood from the corners of his mouth, then climbed to his feet. His eyes flashed fiercely. This time, he didn't defend. Instead, he chose to attack. Shui Yang lived up to his reputation as a famed great emperor. Even though his cultivation was slightly lower than Yi Zichen's and he didn't use any weapons, he completely nullified Yi Zichen's attacks. He casually plucked a leaf from the ground and swung it at Yi Zichen. Even though Yi Zichen had prepared his defenses in advance, the divine power radiating from the leaf pierced right through his defenses and slammed into him through the Xianyuan sword. Ugh! Yi Zichen felt something sweet in his throat, then coughed up a mouthful of blood. Yi Zichen wiped the blood from the corners of his mouth. He staggered a little. They'd exchanged less than 30 blows, but he was already on the verge of collapse. How could he possibly exchange 100? Don't give him a chance to attack. The difference in cultivation between the two of you is too great, and your understanding of the Tao of heaven and earth is different as well. Even if he's a 3rd stage Sky Supreme, his understanding of heaven and earth is unfathomable. Never mind a 6th stage Sky Supreme, even if you were a diviner, you wouldn't be able to withstand his attacks, transmitted Xianyuan Xiang into Yi Zichen's sea of consciousness. I know. Yi Zichen nodded solemnly. He naturally understood what Xianyuan Xiang just said. However, Shui Yang's defenses were simply too tight. Even if he just stood there casually, Yi Zichen couldn't find any flaws in his defenses. Shui Yang's defenses were like an impenetrable wall. Yi Zichen's attacks weren't strong enough to keep him on the defensive without giving him a chance to attack. That's all you've got? Leave the Xianyuan sword in Emperor Hades' secondary palace. Shui Yang looked down at Yi Zichen condescendingly. Yi Zichen narrowed his eyes and licked his lips. Chapter 1261. Heaven plundering 4 strokes, sky shattering. As Shui Yang and Yi Zichen fought, Emperor Hades watched from afar, arms crossed. He saw every detail of Yi Zichen's movements. Gradually, he seemed to lose interest and shook his head with a sigh. If that was all he had, the Xianyuan sword would definitely not be taken away by him. Even the Yao Ceiling Pagoda had to remain in Emperor Hades' palace. Chaos was coming. Both the Yao Ceiling Pagoda and the Xianyuan sword were supreme treasures that even the rulers of the three realms would covet. If he was only at this level, it wouldn't be a good choice for him to travel the three realms with these two supreme treasures, be it for the ownership of the divine artifacts or his own safety. Rather than sending him to his death with these two supreme treasures, it was better to leave them in Emperor Hades' palace. At the very least, with Emperor Hades around, no one would dare brazenly attack his secondary residence. Yi Zichen's safety had improved considerably. Although they had only exchanged 20 moves, the outcome of the battle was obvious. Emperor Hades glanced at Shui Yang, who nodded back at him. They were ready to end this duel. In the blink of an eye, countless gusts of wind sprang up around Shui Yang. His long hair danced wildly in the wind. The leaves that he plucked from the tree also straightened under his divine power. The leaves brushed past him, and a wave of divine power visible to the naked eye rippled through the air. The wave moved extremely quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it reached Yi Zichen. Although this was a wave of divine power unleashed by the leaf, Shui Yang's comprehension of heaven and earth was infused with it. This seemingly ordinary attack completely sealed off Yi Zichen's path of retreat. Yi Zichen's pupils contracted as he held Xianyuan's sword in front of him. Boom! The huge roar set off a sky full of smoke, and the people outside couldn't see what was happening inside. It's over. Shui Yang tossed the leaf to the ground, and Emperor Hades walked over. When he saw the smoke, he sighed and shook his head. Although Yi Zichen didn't emerge from the smoke for a long time, he trusted that Shui Yang knew when to stop. That's fine too. The Xianyuan sword and the Yao Ceiling Pagoda will remain in Emperor Hades' palace. As long as the two of us are here, even if the news gets out, no one will dare to come here to snatch it. Regardless of whether we can use them or not, at least these two divine artifacts still belong to the God realm. When Shui Yang heard this, he nodded. But at that moment, a cold laugh rang out from all around them. Caught you! Shui Yang looked down and saw that at some point, a puddle of water had appeared beneath his feet. Great Emperor Shui Yang, we're in the middle of a competition. You have to be serious. Otherwise, a heavenly sovereign like you might suffer in the hands of a heavenly supreme like me. Thunder fall. Above the sky, several thunder dragons roared down from the sky. Only then did Ming Di and the others realize that a pool of lightning had appeared over their heads at some point. Shui Yang watched as the roaring lightning dragons bore down on him. He wanted to dodge, but he realized that the puddle of water beneath his feet had already frozen. Even with his cultivation suppressed to the third stage Sky Supreme level, he still couldn't break free. Even though Mount Tai was pressing down on him, he remained unfazed. Even though Shui Yang's movements were restricted and Lei Long was right in front of him, Shui Yang didn't seem the least bit alarmed. His left hand was still behind his back, and his right hand was pointing at the sky. Break! The sound wave was like the roar of a dragon. When this sound wave came out of his mouth, the roaring thunder dragon directly distorted and disappeared under the sound wave. Not bad. Shui Yang nodded at Yi Zichen in satisfaction, a hint of admiration in his eyes. But that's not enough. The layer of ice beneath his feet melted back into a puddle of water. Shui Yang didn't want the competition to continue, so he took the initiative to fly past Yi Zichen. Rain, come. The sky was clear for thousands of miles, but the majestic rain poured down. Trying to use the same trick you've already used? That's not a wise choice. Shui Yang had long since been on guard. As soon as the magical rain fell, he erected a barrier around himself. He was certain that the magical rain would freeze midway. As expected, the torrential rain transformed into sharp blades of ice just as it was about to reach him. Shui Yang looked as if he'd seen through Yi Zichen, but little did he know, Yi Zichen's lips curved into a triumphant smile. Fire, come. Countless fireballs fell from the sky, following the rain. Fire and water were supposed to oppose each other, but at this moment, they each had their own role to play. As long as the fire didn't go out, the rain wouldn't stop. When the fireballs hit the ground, they set the plains ablaze. The ice that pierced the ground gradually turned into clear water under the burning of the flames, turning the entire plain into mud. Wind feeds the fire. The wind howled, and the puddles of water and scorching flames engulfed Shui-Yang. Water condense. The melted water condensed back into ice. Yi Zichen cracked his neck and snapped his fingers. Have a taste of fire and ice. Even though Shui-Yang had warned him, water still splashed onto his body. Water condensed into ice, fire burned, and most importantly, Yi Zichen used the power of the 5 elements. The Tao of the 5 elements. Shui-Yang's expression shifted. Emperor Hades knew Yi Zichen was proficient in the Tao of the 5 elements, but he didn't. However, although the Tao of the 5 elements was difficult to deal with, his understanding of it was still shallow. It wasn't enough to put Shui-Yang in a bind. A beam of silver light shot out from Shui-Yang's body, shattering all the ice around him. He didn't care about the sea of flames in front of him at all. He passed right through them and punched Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen had never underestimated Shui-Yang, nor did he think the Tao of the 5 elements could actually harm him. However, he never would have guessed that, even after suppressing his cultivation to the 3rd stage Sky Supreme level, he'd still be able to escape his Tao of fire and ice so quickly. The incoming punch caused Yi Zichen's heart to tremble, but he blocked it with Xianyuan's sword. The aftershocks of the punch flowed through the Xianyuan's sword and into his bones. Humph! Yi Zichen stabbed the Xianyuan sword into the ground, but even so, he still stumbled back a few dozen steps. A muffled groan escaped his lips. He stared straight ahead, only to see Shui-Yang shake his head. You performed well, but both your thinking and your understanding of the Tao of the 5 elements are too immature. Anyone with the slightest bit of experience would have noticed your movements. If that's all you've got, then you've lost. Who said I'd lost? Yi Zichen stood off in the distance. He suddenly brushed aside his long hair, and a vertical eye opened between his brows. A ray of golden light like a sacred sword shot out. When he saw it, Shui-Yang's eyebrows twitched. A godhead! Yi Zichen raised the Xianyuan sword high into the air. The sky darkened and rumbled without end. Yi Zichen held his sword aloft, his expression cold and arrogant. Both his body and the Xianyuan sword glowed with faint golden light. In the darkness, he looked like a saint. Chapter 1262. Shatter the blade didn't fall. Under the golden light, the sword blade exuded a power that could destroy the heavens and the earth. Under this destructive power, the ground beneath his feet began to split apart. Countless rocks flew into the air, and the muffled claps of thunder smashed into everyone's hearts like a sledgehammer. In the face of such power, Shui-Yang's expression grew solemn for the first time. He didn't act rashly. Instead, he stood in place, his gaze darting back and forth. Gotcha! It was unknown where the first sound came from, but after the first shattering sound, countless shattering sounds began to ring in everyone's ears. Where is it? Shui-Yang couldn't help but mutter to himself. Then he looked up. The sky was shattering. The surrounding space was like a mirror, shattering into countless cracks. Furthermore, the cracks were spreading relentlessly towards Shui-Yang. To Shui-Yang's disbelief, he couldn't stop the cracks from spreading. The trees split under the cracks of space, and the gravel was annihilated under the cracks of space. Yi Zichen held the Xianyuan sword aloft, blood gushing from his mouth. Given his current cultivation, there was no way he could bear the burden of the 4 forms of heaven plundering. He'd risked his life to use shatter space to prove. He had the power to keep the Xianyuan sword by his side, and he wanted Shui-Yang to put away his contemptuous expression. Shatter! Yi Zichen roared valiantly. In an instant, the cracked space around him collapsed. Shui-Yang's body was covered in a layer of golden armor, and a terrifying aura radiated from him. He couldn't stop the shattering. In the end, his gaze fell on Yizichin. Brat! Bang! Emperor Hades suddenly appeared in front of Yizichin and knocked him out with a karate chop. Condense, muttered Emperor Hades. His words were like a dictum, infused with the laws of heaven and earth. The shattered space froze in response to his single word. The cracks in the space also merged back together. You brat! Shui Yang was battered and exhausted by the shattered space. He stared intently at the unconscious Yizichin, but Emperor Hades glanced at him coolly. Yizichin 1. We agreed to suppress our cultivation to the third stage Sky Supreme level. Your aura is already at the ruler level, and you said that you don't need any defensive weapons. Aren't you wearing your golden battle armor now? Shui Yang's eyes flashed with displeasure. Emperor Hades changed the subject with a smile. Alright, don't be angry. I know this is your clone, and your understanding of heaven and earth is not as strong as your main body. If I were here, Yizichin would have no chance at all. This kid really knows how to surprise me. Shui Yang shook his head and sighed, but his anger didn't subside. But Gong Yan, you're being a bit unreasonable. How could you not tell me this kid is proficient in the Tao of the 5 elements? Also, he actually had godhood. This was a god who had passed the god tribulation. That divine deity is the divine deity of the sword god. You are purposely trying to see me make a fool of myself, right? I do know about the 5 elemental magic, but I don't think his understanding of the 5 elemental magic is enough to threaten you, so I didn't tell you. As for the godhood, I don't know either. If I knew, would I not tell you? Don't think so badly of me. Am I that kind of person? I think you are, snorted Shui Yang. How old are you? Don't throw a tantrum like a child. But Shui, do you think it'll be fine to let him keep the Xianyuan sword and Yao Ceiling Pagoda? It shouldn't be a problem. Shui Yang's expression darkened. Although his understanding of the great Tao of the 5 elements is immature, he's quite adept at using them. With the Tao of the 5 elements and the Yao in the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, he won't be at a disadvantage against a diviner. As for that sword strike, tell me, don't hide it. Don't you think his heaven plundering strike was similar to a famous expert's sword technique? The Emperor's star. The two of them glanced at each other, then at Yizichin. After using the heaven plundering strike, Yizichin was exhausted to begin with. Add to that the blow Emperor Hades had given him, and he was now in a severe coma. Who knows? He might be the one we've been waiting for all these years. While unconscious, Yizichin felt as if he'd gone to another galaxy, and that all the stars there seemed very close to him. He wandered around the Milky Way in a carefree manner. Suddenly, a pitch-black shadow appeared in front of him. It seemed to be beckoning him over. He wanted to go over. Yizichin. Yizichin opened his eyes and saw Shui Mo sitting by his bedside. Why are you here? Yizichin looked at her in confusion. When he looked around, he realized that he was in Skyspan Academy's Anti-Upheaval Society. Why am I here? I was the one who brought you here. You were gravely injured at the foot of the Divine Mountain. His Excellency Emperor Hades and my dad said to bring you to the Divine Mountains and let you absorb divine power on your own. That's the best way to recover, said Shui Mo, gravely injured. Only then did Yizichin recall how he'd risked his life to use Sky Smasher. He nervously looked around. What is it? When I got back, where was my sword? I have it. Shui Mo took the Xianyuan sword out of her spatial ring. My dad said I couldn't let outsiders see it, so I put it in my spatial ring. Here, it's returned to its rightful owner. Thanks. Yizichin accepted the Xianyuan sword and smiled gratefully. The fact that it was still with him meant that both Emperor Hades and Shui Yang approved of him. His efforts hadn't been in vain. Right, my dad told me to give this to you. As she spoke, a book appeared in Shui Mo's hands. What's this? I'm not sure. In any case, my dad told me to give it to you. When Yi Zichen flipped open the book, he froze despite himself. This was a record of his understanding of the 5 elements, as well as how to use them, as well as things to take note of when combining them. Thank great Emperor Shuiyang for me. Yi Zichen solemnly placed the book into his spatial ring, then said gratefully, "All right. But my dad was really strange. He told me that if you wanted to be my son-in-law, he'd approve. Back then. Was he trying to set us up? Then why are you asking me?" Yi Zichen was speechless. "But I only see you as a brother," said Shuemo. "Me neither," said Yi Zichen. The two of them glanced at each other and saw the same helplessness in each other's eyes. In the end, the two of them decided to skip the topic. Shuemo said, "Don't worry." Chapter 1263. Godhead Fusion Super Privilege. The society ranking, as the name suggested, was a competition between societies within the school to determine the new 5 great societies. The ranking also directly affected how much resources the school distributed to student societies. It was a grand event no student society would want to participate in. That's fast. Didn't they say we'd have to wait half a year before the tournament? Yi Zichen couldn't help but feel confused. Shuemo glanced at him helplessly. "You might not know how long you've been unconscious, but I can confidently tell you that it's already been half a year." Yi Zichen's mind buzzed. It was already half a year? His mission in Barren Sands City, his mission to Emperor Hades, and his mission to resurrect Chen Guangfa had only taken 2 or 3 months. Did that mean he'd been unconscious for at least 3 months? It's a good thing you woke up just in time. Otherwise, I wouldn't even know who to send up for the tournament. But I still have to ask, how do you feel about your recovery? Can you participate in the ranking tournament? Shuemo's eyes were still filled with worry. Yi Zichen instinctively reached out, then scanned his body with his divine sense. When his divine sense entered, Yi Zichen discovered that his meridians were completely healed, and much tougher than before. They even glowed with a faint golden light. Not only that, but the divine power of the divine mountains was even more intimate with him now. Even if he didn't deliberately cultivate, endless streams of divine power seeped into his body through his pores, gathered in his meridians, and formed a river of divine power. Suddenly, Yi Zichen thought of a possibility. He examined his sea of consciousness. A golden holy sword hovered above the little man's head, and the mark of a holy sword was etched between his eyebrows. A godhead. The godhead he'd received during his divine tribulation had completely fused with him. Didn't that mean he was a god now, not like those so-called supremes of the god race? He was a true god with a godhead. Yi Zichen was overjoyed. He'd never guessed that he'd tried so hard to communicate with his godhead and use the heaven-plundering 4 stances. Although he'd destroyed all of his meridians, it was a blessing in disguise. Not only had he earned Shuiyang and Emperor Hades' approval, but he'd also kept the Xianyuan sword by his side. Now, he'd even fused with his godhead. "Yi Zichen, are you even listening to me?" Shuemo sat on the edge of the bed and pouted in annoyance. Yes. I can definitely participate in the qualifier," said Yi Zichen. When Shuemo heard this, she nodded slightly. "All right, I'll count you in. You stay here and recuperate. I still have to go mobilize the others. Logically speaking, although our guild has more members, we are still lacking in elite experts. Looks like I might have to get some external help. That's all I can do. Great Society Head Shuemo, I'll leave it all to you." Yi Zichen laughed, as if he were taking pleasure in her misfortune. Shuemo couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. She glared at him, told him to get some rest, then left the room. Not long after Shuemo left, Yi Zichen's grin faded. He licked his lips, rubbed his hands together, then closed his eyes and summoned his godhead. A holy sword emerged from between his brows. When it appeared, it was like a joyful child, circling around Yi Zichen. When Yi Zichen looked at the godhead, he could clearly sense its connection to his bloodline. Especially when the divine spark appeared, The surrounding divine power seemed to have found a home as it frantically surged towards the divine spark. Before long, a vortex appeared above Yi Zichen's head, devouring divine power. Don't you guys feel it? The divine power around us suddenly thinned out. I think so. Hey, now that you mention it, it really is. Anti-Upheaval's members couldn't help but mutter to themselves. Meanwhile, Yi Zichen had no idea what was going on. He was like a fish in water, enjoying special treatment. When he woke up, he was already a peak 6th-stage Sky Supreme. Now that he summoned his godhead, divine power surged into him, allowing him to break through the shackles between the 6th and 7th stages. He'd successfully entered the ranks of late-stage Sky Supremes. No wonder gods have such transcendent positions on the divine mountains, and why other factions fight over them. With a godhead, you can devour divine power like crazy. You don't even need to purify it like you normally do. If I keep devouring like this, it won't be long before I become a diviner. After devouring divine power for a brief moment, Yi Zichen put the godhead away and sighed inwardly. He didn't continue. He was at school, and there were too many people around. If he devoured too much divine power, he'd attract the attention of other students. If he really wanted to devour divine power without restraint, he'd have to at least find a place with few people around. However, there was no need to think about the cities on the divine mountains. Right now, all Yi Zichen wanted to do was see if he could devour divine power to the same extent outside the divine mountains. Yi Zichen's heart was filled with delight. He stretched lazily, then leaped off the bed. After resting on the bed for a long time, when he stretched his back, his bones made a cracking sound. He used some magical water to clean himself up, then sat down and took out his phone. He'd been in a coma for months. Zuomo was definitely worried sick. He had to call her to let her know he was safe. Since he hadn't used divine power to charge his phone for so long, it was turned off. When he turned it back on, it buzzed incessantly. It seemed his network had already reached the northern divine mountain. Most of the messages were from the immortals in the red packet group. None of them had any substantive content. However, there were far too many messages, so Yi Zichen had no choice but to read through them one by one. After skimming through all the random messages, he flipped to Zuomo's. She was asking what Yi Zichen was doing and why he hadn't replied after so long. If he saw this message, he should reply. Even so, Yi Zichen could sense Zuomo's deep concern for him. Little Mo, as soon as he sent the message, Zuomo replied almost instantly. Where have you been all this time? You haven't replied in so long. Yi Zichen could sense her reproach. He couldn't help but laugh. I went back to the divine mountains. I gained some insights into the Tao of the 5 elements, so I went straight into seclusion. I didn't have time to tell you. My bad. He naturally couldn't say he'd been unconscious for months. That would only make Zuomo worry even more. Oh, you. Zuomo sighed. I'm glad you're fine. Right, quite a few of Wei Jie's people ascended to the divine mountains in the past few months. I sent them your ID and asked them to add you as a friend. Did you see it? Wei Jie ascended. Back then, Wei Jie hadn't seemed more than a sky immortal. How had he ascended so quickly? Furthermore, Zuomo was talking about them. He obviously hadn't ascended on his own. Could it be that they'd encountered some sort of fortuitous encounter in the past few months? Yi Zichen logged out of the chat window and glanced at his contact. Sure enough, quite a few new people had added him as a friend. The one at the top was none other than Wei Jie. He'd added him as a friend, but he didn't have an avatar. Yi Zichen clicked accept. As soon as he added him, Wei Jie sent him a message. Chapter 1264. Wei Jie's request for help. Yi Zichen's heart trembled despite himself, and he hurriedly typed a reply. Where are you? What's wrong? I'm on the northern divine mountain. Aren't you here too? Upheaval's people came all the way here. Wei Jie sent the message extremely quickly. As soon as he sent it, he added, We're in a village. Right now, we are in a village. It was quite good, but suddenly, someone attacked this village. The few of us are now hiding with the villagers in the village. Send me your location, said Yizichin. Next, a shared map appeared on Yizichin's phone. Yizichin opened the map and confirmed his surroundings. He was sure they were in Smoke City, north of Skyspan City. Hide there and keep in touch with me. I'm going to save you right now. Yizichin put his phone in his pocket, changed into a set of white robes, and dashed out of his room. When the society members saw him, they all nodded and greeted him. Yizichin smiled back, then saw Chen Guangfa, who seemed to be leading an ordinary society member on a cultivation trip. Guangfa. When he heard Yizichin's call, Chen Guangfa turned around, his eyes flashing with delight. Big brother Yi, you're awake. I really have to thank you. If you and senior apprentice sister hadn't gone to the river Styx to beg Emperor Hades, Chen Guangfa's eyes brimmed with emotion. Although Yizichin wanted to chat with him, the current situation didn't allow him to waste even a second. Let's talk about this later. Where's Shuemo? Although Smoke City wasn't far from Skyspan City, it would still take a lot of time for Yizichin to get there on foot. He urgently needed to find Shuemo and get her flying boat. Sensing Yizichin's urgency, Chen Guangfa's expression softened. Senior apprentice sister went to the Appearance Association. I heard society head Murong was looking for her. Thanks. Yizichin patted Chen Guangfa on the shoulder, then released his divine power and dashed toward the Appearance Association's headquarters as quickly as he could. The fluctuations of divine power he released stunned the society members. Some of the members who joined right from the start exclaimed in astonishment. Just now, platoon leader Ye's divine power was at least at the level of a 7th-stage Sky Supreme, right? Platoon leader Yi only joined our school half a year ago. Half a year. Could it be that he was already a heavenly supreme when he came? According to the school's rules, only those who have ascended to the divine mountain within 100 years or become an Earth Supreme can enter the school. If he's already a Sky Supreme, that means that within 100 years. What kind of cultivation is this? It's too terrifying. Chen Guangfa's eyes were also filled with shock. He knew Yizichin. When they first met, Yizichin was just an Earth Supreme. Back then, he was already a Sky Supreme. Now that he had been resurrected from the River of Time, he had become a 3rd-stage Sky Supreme. He thought that was pretty fast, but who would have thought comparing oneself to others was infuriating? Platoon Commander Ye's cultivation is unfathomable, and his cultivation speed is monstrous. This is a good thing for anti-upheaval. If he had the time to lament about Regiment Commander Ye's cultivation, he might as well use this time to improve his own strength. The club has given you all the best resources, so you guys have to work hard too. After his rebirth, Chen Guangfa's temperament seemed to have changed a little. Now, he had some of the authority of the club's management. He glanced at the members around him. All right, let's continue cultivating. Thank you, Momo darling. I promise you that once the mission is over, I'll return your flying boat to you in perfect condition. In the Appearance Association, Murong Shui smiled gently and crossed her arms over her chest. Jiang Yong stood beside her. He'd come to help the Appearance Association with their mission. Big Sister Murong, I'm sorry. I asked you for my mission, but I can't go to yours. Shui Mo's gaze was somewhat apologetic. Murong Shui laughed. It's fine. I know your situation. Platoon Commander Ye's in a coma, and the rankings are just around the corner. You can't just leave. Hey, I think it's just Brother Yi who can't go. If he did, Shui Mo would definitely go too, interjected Jiang Yong. Don't think of me and Yizichin like you, okay? We're just good brothers. You, on the other hand, have been tagging along with Big Sister Murong ever since you left Barren Sands City. Then I have to tag along. She's my fiancée after all. If she goes on a mission, how can I be at ease if I don't tag along? Said Jiang Yong. Shui Mo couldn't help but arch her brows. Murong Shui slapped Jiang Yong on the head. Don't listen to his nonsense. I never agreed to go with him. Momo, you don't know this Jiang Yong. After leaving Barren Sand City, he really went to my house to ask for my hand in marriage. I was so embarrassed. You know how close our families are. It wouldn't be good to refuse him on the spot, so I said we could try dating. But she's still my wife, interrupted Jiang Yong. Murong Shui raised her arm. Jiang Yong instantly shut up. When she saw their expressions, Shui Mo couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. The way I see it, the two of you are quite suited for each other. Then what about you and Brother Yi? We're brothers. I've already told you so many times. As they chatted and laughed, Yi Zichen hurried in with one of the Appearance Association's golden flowers, Dai Xiaoyan. To tell the truth, after entering the Appearance Association, it was like entering a country of women. As far as the eye could see, there were only girls. There were no signs of men at all. Hey, look what you're saying. As soon as I mentioned Brother Yi, he came looking for me. Jiang Yong laughed heartily, and Murong Shui's eyes flashed with amusement. Shui Mo turned to look at him in surprise. Why are you here? Didn't I tell you to rest in bed? Oh, they're all here. They were all familiar faces. They were all people who'd gone on a mission to Barren Sand City. Yi Zichen nodded and smiled at them, then grabbed Shui Mo by the arm. You have your flying boat, right? Lend it to me. Shui Mo's expression froze, and she instinctively glanced at Murong Shui. Platoon Leader Yi, you're going to use it too? Murong Shui arched her brows in surprise. Momo's flying boat is with me. I'm about to go on a mission. If you're in a hurry, I'll give it to you. We can find another way to get there. Yi Zichen's heart sank. Forget it. If you're on a mission, you can use it. I'll think of another way. Why are you in such a hurry to use it? Shui Mo didn't understand. I have a few friends from the lower lands who just ascended. They're currently tied up in Smoke City, said Yi Zichen with a frown. You guys chat. I'm going to find another. Wait, what did you just say? Where? Asked Murong Shui. Smoke City. Why? Are you going too? Yi Zichen probed. Chapter 1265. To Smoke Cloud City. When he heard that Murong Shui and the others had to go to Smoke City, Yi Zichen knit his brows. He sensed that things weren't as simple as they seemed. Could this be a repeat of the incident in Barren Sand City? That was what Yi Zichen was thinking, but he didn't say it out loud. What's your mission in Smoke Cloud City? This is a mission from the Academy. A large amount of cloud tobacco has appeared in the vicinity of Smoke Cloud City. The Academy has sent us to collect some. Murong Shui replied with a smile, then raised her eyebrows. I know what you're thinking. Are you worried that it'll be like Barren Sand City? But this time, it's different. Yi Zichen understood the effects of the cloud tobacco. It was a pill refining material that could greatly increase the success rate of pill refinement. Smoke Cloud City was also famous for the cloud tobacco. So long as it wasn't about the incident in Barren Sand City, Yi Zichen relaxed. When he remembered that Wei Jie was still waiting for him to rescue him, he couldn't afford to waste any more time. Then let's go together. There's no time to lose, let's go now. All right. As she spoke, Murong Shui summoned the flying boat she'd borrowed from Shui Mo. She summoned the two golden flowers of the Appearance Association and boarded. Jiang Yong, Pan Xing, and Yi Zichen boarded as well, but after they did, Shui Mo boarded as well. I want to go with you. When Jiang Yong heard this, he laughed heartily. See if I'm right? If Brother Yi wants to go, Shui Mo has to go. Alright, we can be considered old teammates. Let's go then. Yi Zichen sat in a corner and took out his phone. How's the situation? The message was sent to Wei Jie. A few minutes later, Wei Jie replied. Right now, we're still hiding and can't see what's going on outside. We also don't dare to release our divine sense for fear of being discovered. I don't know what's going on either. Then, who attacked your village? Asked Yi Zichen. Who knows? I haven't been on the Divine Mountains for long. Those people killed whenever they came, regardless of whether they were men or women, young or old, they didn't spare anyone. Moreover, this group of people is extremely strong. None of us are a match for them, Wei Jie replied. Are you sure they're human? Are there any other auras? Yi Zichen frowned. It's a human, I'm absolutely certain of that. When they attacked, I immediately wondered if they were outsiders, but they didn't have the slightest hint of an outsider's aura, Wei Jie replied. When he saw Wei Jie's reply, Yi Zichen couldn't help but fall silent. In fact, he still had some suspicions that the people who attacked the villages outside of Smoke Cloud City were demons. However, Wei Jie's reply was so certain that they weren't demons that he couldn't immediately make a conclusion. If it wasn't the demon race, then it had to be a very evil and wicked person to not even let off women, children, and the elderly. Could they be horse bandits? Although Yi Zichen had never run into them, he'd heard that the bandits were a particularly violent faction on the Divine Mountains. They committed all sorts of atrocities. Continue hiding. I'm heading to Smoke Cloud City now. I should be able to reach you very soon. All right. When Yi Zichen put his phone back into his pocket, he noticed that he was surrounded by a group of women. Murong Shui, the two golden flowers of the Appearance Association, and Shui Mo all bent over to look at him. Why are you guys looking at me like that? Murong Shui licked her lips uncomfortably. She frowned, took a step back, and said to Shui Mo, that communication device he used just now is pretty good. The communication device he used just now is pretty good. Instant communication. Then, Murong Shui walked over with a smile on her face. Little brother Yi, that thing you just used. What was that? Are you talking about this? Yi Zichen took out his phone. When he saw Murong Shui nod, he smiled and said, This is a mobile phone. It's a product of my research team's research and development team. It's capable of instant individual and group communication. What, are you interested? I'm rather interested, but do you know how much it costs? I'm not sure how much it costs either. I'll have to ask the research department. Once it's mass-produced, if you want it, I can add a bit of labor costs to the original price. However, I doubt it'll be more than 200 divine coins. That's fine. Murong Shui smiled and nodded. Although communication devices could send messages, they weren't always instantaneous. Sometimes, when a message was sent, there might be a long delay. Moreover, the cost of manufacturing transmission jade slips wasn't cheap. Even the cheapest one cost 500 divine coins or more. She liked the mobile phone's timeliness, and it was cheaper than transmission jade slip. It was obvious which choice he should make. When the time comes, just give me 3 million of them. I want to give every member of the Appearance Association one, said Murong Shui heroically. Yi Zichen couldn't help but shudder in fear. If he calculated it at 200 divine coins each, then 3 million would cost 600 million divine coins. Murong Shui didn't so much as blink. No wonder the top 5 student societies were said to be rich and powerful. Only the heirs of great clans could become society leaders. He was inhumanly rich. Beauty Murong, you've really frightened me. But if you want 3 million, I don't have that much. In our first batch, we'll only be able to produce a few million. I'll need to distribute them to anti-upheaval and the factions in the lower lands. Yi Zichen shrugged. So you have a faction in the lower lands? What gang? My family has branches in the lower lands as well. But don't you know about upheaval? That gang is really arrogant down there. They've beaten my family into a pulp. And Jiang Yong's family too. Murong Shui gestured at Jiang Yong. In response, Jiang Yong raised his voice and shouted, That's not it. Of course not. Upheaval's too arrogant. But I can't be bothered to get involved in the side branches' affairs. Still, I heard that Upheaval's doing quite well in the lower lands. They've practically taken over all 9 of the Divine Mountains. Upheaval? Doesn't that mean we, anti-upheaval, are going to wipe them out? The heirs of the northern Divine Mountain's influential clans chatted back and forth, but Yi Zichen's expression grew increasingly stiff. He scratched his head, coughed, and shouted, "Old Jiang, how much longer until we get to Smoke City? Old Jiang, how much longer until we get to Smoke City? We'll be there soon. Don't be in such a rush. Do you know where your friend is? How about we save him first, then go harvest the cloud tobacco?" shouted Jiang Yong. "There's no need for that. You guys go do what you need to do. I can deal with him myself. When the time comes, I'll go look for you." With that, Yi Zichen lowered his head and fell silent. Murong Shui asked,